Monday, noon, inside the living room of a premium two-person suite at the Ethelberg Royal Academy. Well, Damian Sterling drawled as he stepped out of his bedroom, spotting Leo Miller hunched over the dining table, preparing a cup of instant ramen. He raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. The great Leo Miller, reduced to eating this. Leo had just peeled back the lid, inhaling the savory steam. Seeing Damian, he offered a weary smile. No choice, he explained. Had a massive blowout with my old man this weekend. He froze all my accounts. My credit cards are declined, my campus card is dead, and I can't get a cent out of my Venmo. All I've got is a little cash, which the cafeteria doesn't even take. So, I hit up the campus market for some ramen to get by. Damian stared, dumbfounded. He froze your cards? Why not just use Afterpay or Klarna or something? Or get a quick loan from one of those apps. You just need to survive the week, you can pay it back. Leo shook his head vehemently. No way. My dad's already furious. If he finds out I'm taking out online loans, he'll never unfreeze my accounts. Besides, he had my bank lock down all my payment apps. Money can go in, but nothing can go out. A loan wouldn't do me any good. But if you have cash, you're not totally screwed for food, are you? Damian scratched his head. Other people's meal cards still work. Just give someone cash and have them swipe for you, right? Oh, damn it. I completely forgot. At Damian's suggestion, Leo smacked his forehead. He glanced down at the cup of ramen on the table, and suddenly, it didn't smell so good anymore. Seeing Leo jump to his feet, Damian asked, "Where are you going?" "To the cafeteria. I'm starving." Leo was already pulling on his shoes. Damian pointed at the ramen. "You just made that. You're not going to eat it." "Nope. Going for real food. If you want it, it's all yours." With a wave, Leo was out the door. "Hey, wait." Damian called after him. "A Sterling doesn't eat such cheap food." But Leo was already gone, too far away to hear. Damian stared at the cup of ramen for a few seconds before quickly sitting down on the sofa, feigning nonchalance. The truth was, Damian was intensely curious. He had always wondered what instant ramen tasted like. And flamin' hot Cheetos, greasy pizza, deep-fried Oreos. He'd seen these things, but he'd never once been allowed to eat them. His upbringing had drilled into him that they were junk food, cheap sustenance for the lower classes. He was Damian Sterling, the heir to a multi-billion-dollar Ethelberg dynasty. How could someone of his stature possibly touch such things? Bound by 1,000 rules, Damian had always suppressed his inner child, forced to be more mature than his peers. He was the focus of every crowd, the best of the best. Everyone saw his excellence, but no one saw the normal human cravings he had to ignore. Maybe he himself had almost forgotten them. The aroma of the ramen soon filled the entire living room, and a rebellious grumble echoed from within his stomach. "It smells so good. What does it actually taste like?" The question popped into his head, startling him. His private chef was still 20 minutes away from delivering his lunch. He stood, planning to retreat to his bedroom. As he walked, he muttered to himself, "A Sterling would never desire such lowbrow food. I am absolutely not going to my room because the ramen smells too good." His hand closed around the doorknob, and he paused. After a few seconds, he let go. He didn't go into his room. Instead, he turned and walked back to the suite's main entrance. Click! After locking the front door, Damian tiptoed to the dining table and picked up the cup of ramen Leo had abandoned. Gulp! Staring at the steaming, fragrant noodles, Damian swallowed hard. "I am merely an adventurous connoisseur of new experiences," he whispered to himself. "I'm absolutely not desperate to eat this." Slurp! One mouthful. That was all it took. Damian was instantly hooked on the intense, salty, greasy flavor. In that moment, a light ignited in his eyes. This flavor, it's absolutely extraordinary. In an instant, every lesson on elegant table manners was thrown out the window. He wolfed down the noodles, then tipped the cup back and drank every last drop of the broth. It was official. No one, at any age, is immune to the allure of junk food, especially not the great Damian Sterling, who had eaten nothing but gourmet cuisine for over 20 years. While Damian was having his ramen epiphany, Leo had reached the cafeteria. The moment he walked in, he ran right into Julianne Hale, who was at the hot food counter. "Hey, ma'am, just a scoop of the mac and cheese, and some of that vegetarian chili. Could you maybe add a little extra chili?" "Thank you so much, you're the best." To score a little more food from the cafeteria worker, Julianne was laying the charm on thick. "This girl is dangerously clever," the staunchly practical Leo thought to himself. He walked up behind her and glanced at the 2 meager portions on her tray. "On a diet? That's all you're eating?" "Ah." Julianne, about to swipe her card, jumped at the sound of his voice. She turned. "When did you get here?" "Just now," Leo said, then addressed the server. "Ma'am, could you add 2 chicken drumsticks to her plate?" Julianne immediately protested. I don't like chicken drumsticks. Leo looked her straight in the eye. Really? Really, she insisted. Fine. Then I'll eat them, Leo said. Ma'am, I'll get 2 drumsticks, an order of the pepper steak, and a side of broccoli. The server nodded. All right, let me just ring up this young lady first. Put ours together, Leo said. I'll pay. Julianne immediately waved her hands. No, you don't have to treat me. I can pay for my own. Who said I was treating you? Leo smirked. My campus car is frozen. You pay for me, and I'll give you cash. Huh? Wait, what? Julianne was baffled. He was the son of one of the university's biggest benefactors. Who on earth had the power to freeze his meal card? Leo leaned in, lowering his voice. I'm serious. Just help me out, will you? While they were talking, the server had plated Leo's food. That'll be $15.50 total. Who's paying? I'll get it, Julianne said, swiping her card. The screen flashed. $15. 50. Leo caught a glimpse of her remaining balance. $0. 23. Of the $15. 50 Julianne had just paid. Her own meal of mac and cheese and chili came to a paltry $3. Leo's meat-heavy feast was $12.50. The mac and cheese and vegetarian chili, aside from the free salad bar lettuce, were the cheapest hot items in any of the 12 dining halls at Ethelberg. Leo remembered this detail clearly because he'd written it into the novel himself. He'd added that bit because, during his own broke phase at USC, he had survived on those exact kinds of cheap dishes and free soup. Of course, being able to afford any real food at all wasn't the worst of it. He remembered a dorm mate who, trying to buy his girlfriend a new iPhone, ate nothing but white rice and free soup packets from the cafeteria for 2 months straight. He nearly ended up in the hospital for malnutrition. The relationship didn't last, of course. The girlfriend was a gold digger who eventually left him for some flashy finance bro from off-campus. Ahem, he was getting sidetracked. Leo carried his tray and followed Julianne to a quiet corner table. As soon as she sat down, her first words were, Campus car got frozen? Is that some new kind of pickup line? Please, Leo said with a defiant tone. If I were going to use a line like that to pick up a girl, I'd at least try it on someone gorgeous. Why would I use it on you? Excuse me? Julianne's eyebrows knitted together, her beautiful eyes turning cold. With a playful pout, she said, then go find someone hotter. What are you bothering me for? Get lost. Seeing he'd genuinely annoyed her, Leo immediately backpedaled. Hey, I was just kidding. Look at you, taking it so seriously. He pulled out his wallet, took out a crisp $100 bill, and placed it on the table. Julianne glanced at the money. What's that for? The food, Leo said, scratching his head. I don't have any small bills, only hundreds. She pushed the bill back toward him. I don't have change for that. Consider this one on me. Take your money back. When she'd paid for him, Julianne hadn't intended to ask for the money back. After all, he'd helped her deal with those thugs who'd come to collect her father's debts on Saturday night. Buying him a meal was the least she could do. But Leo wouldn't have it. No way. The great Leo Miller can't let a girl pay for him. Because he had personally experienced what it was like to survive on the cheapest food the school had to offer, he understood better than anyone how important that $12.50 was to Julianne. There was no way he was letting her treat him. Not only that, he had to find a way to help her out financially, at least enough to make sure she was eating properly. Keeping Julianne from starving was, in a way, part of his mission to save the villainess. After a moment's thought, a brilliant idea struck him. How about this? He said, looking at her. I have about $1,000 in cash on me. I'll give you $700. You load it onto your card, and for this week, you're in charge of buying my meals. What do you say? Julianne started to speak, but Leo cut her off. Don't say no yet. I'm not asking you to do it for free. We'll split the $700 for food, 50-50. Consider your half a service fee for the trouble. Julianne immediately shook her head. There's definitely a catch. I'm not helping you. Leo was exasperated. It's your card, and I'm giving you the money. All you have to do is buy me food. What catch could there possibly be? We're friends, right? You think I try to scam you? Julianne thought for a moment. I still don't get it. Doesn't your family basically own this school? How could your meal card get frozen? Leo covered his face. I pissed off my dad. He cut everything off, including the campus card. What are you laughing at? It's your fault. My fault. Julianne's laughter stopped short. She pointed at herself, confused. How is you fighting with your dad my fault? I was at your place too late that night. Leo briefly explained how he'd gotten financially exiled, but left out the part about his father's long-lost love working at a strip club. That was family business, not something to be shared. After listening, Julianne rolled her eyes. That's still not my fault. If you got home late, couldn't you have just said you were studying at the library? Did you have to say you were at a place like that? Me? Studying in the library until late at night. Leo rolled his eyes back at her. Does that sound even remotely plausible? Besides, you cried all over my shirt that night. My dad suspected. MMPH. Before Leo could finish, Julianne clapped a hand over his mouth, her face flushing red. Keep your voice down, she whispered fiercely. Getting my tears on your shirt isn't exactly something to be proud of. Why are you shouting about it? Leo put his hands on his hips. I don't care. You're at least 50% responsible for my funds being frozen, so you have to help me with food for the week. Why does it have to be me? Julianne looked him in the eye. You and Damian are roommates, aren't you? You could use his card, charge it up, and eat together. The guy doesn't have a meal card, Leo said. His 5-star personal chef prepares all his meals at home and has them delivered here by express courier. I can't exactly ask him to go through the trouble of getting a campus card just for my little problem. Can I? Julianne considered. If you can't eat at the cafeteria, why don't you just drive off campus? You think cars run on air? Leo laughed, incredulous. My sports car guzzles gas like it's free. A single push on the accelerator costs a few bucks. I've only got $1,000 cash left. Once it's gone, it's gone. You think I'd risk driving that thing around? Julianne tried again. But there are so many people at this school with meal cards. Why do you have to share one with me? Leo's face fell. Since orientation, besides Damian and Serafina, you're the only person I really know. I'm not going to you, and I can't exactly ask Serafina to borrow her meal card, can I? You're not just saying this because you think I'm poor and you're trying to find an excuse to buy me food, are you? Julianne finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. No, I'm serious. Leo slapped his wallet down on the table. If you don't believe me, take my debit card and try it at an ATM. Okay, fine. I believe you. With him being this insistent, Julianne had to concede. Seeing that she'd agreed, Leo immediately pulled $700 bills from his wallet and handed them to her. Here, $100 a day for the week. That should be enough for the two of us, right? Julianne quickly waved her hands. No, that's too much. I won't spend your money. I'll just add some of my own later. Forget it. Use mine. On an impulse, Leo pulled out the remaining $300 from his wallet and slapped them on the table. $1,000. 2 people, 7 days. We'll budget for $50 a meal. You're eating with me, and we're not skimping. That's final. Julianne looked at the stack of cash on the table, her expression complicated. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. Leo assumed she was just embarrassed to take his money. Don't worry about it. For me, money basically grows on trees. $1,000 for food is nothing. Spend it however you want. You don't have to ask me. Besides, after this week, I'll be back on top. After a moment of silence, Julianne said, You should keep $500 in cash for yourself. If we eat at the cafeteria, $500 is more than enough for a week. $1,000 is $1,000. Leo stuffed the money directly into her small purse. Once a Miller gives money away, he doesn't take it back. What? Are you looking down on me? No, but... Sweet. Your food's getting cold. Leo's tray was loaded with 2 meat dishes, and even his broccoli stir-fry was studded with pork belly. In stark contrast, Julianne's was entirely vegetarian. The difference was glaring. I can't finish this chicken. You take one. Leo picked up one of the drumsticks from his plate and placed it on hers. Julianne glanced at his nearly untouched meal and frowned. You haven't even started eating, and you're already full? Leo rolled his eyes. I have a small appetite. You got a problem with that? You're the great Leo Miller. How could I dare have a problem with you? Julianne said, rolling her eyes right back at him. Leo leaned in close. You just rolled your eyes? That obviously means you have a problem. Seeing him suddenly so close, Julianne flinched away, avoiding his gaze. Don't get so close. We should maintain a proper distance. Is she? Blushing. Noticing her discomfort, Leo leaned back into his seat and went back to his food. Julianne finished every last bite of the rice and vegetables on her plate before finally picking up the drumstick. Looking at the small piece of chicken, she complained, Why is this drumstick so tiny? Beats me, Leo said, holding up the half-eaten one from his own plate. I even tried to give you the bigger one. Mine is even smaller. Julianne thought for a moment. I know why. Why? Leo looked up at her. She glanced toward the food counter and whispered, It's definitely because you didn't sweet-talk the lunch lady and call her ma'am. So she deliberately gave you the smallest ones. Leo scratched his head. What's wrong with calling her ma'am? You just don't get it, Julianne said with a grin. If you'd been a little sweeter, she would have given you bigger scoops of everything. And she definitely would have picked out the biggest drumsticks for you. Leo pouted, as if I would grovel for a few extra scraps of food. Hearing this, Julianne couldn't help but laugh. It's a wonder you don't starve. The chefs at the Royal Academy were actually quite skilled. Even the mass-produced cafeteria food was delicious. The drumsticks were braised until they were fall-off-the-bone, tender, and full of flavor. While Julianne ate her drumstick, Leo stole a few glances at her. This girl, who claimed not to like chicken, was now hunched over her plate like a little kitten, meticulously picking the bone clean. From her expression, she was clearly enjoying it. Leo pressed his lips together, hiding a small smile. After their meal, Leo accompanied Julianne to the campus card services office to deposit the cash. The office wasn't in the cafeteria, but in a separate administrative building in the student life complex. Hardly anyone ever used the cash deposit window. Most students just topped up their cards online. The line for maintenance requests next door was packed, snaking out the door even in the middle of the day. But the deposit window was completely empty. Julianne handed over her card and the $1,000 in cash, and the transaction was done in seconds. "Here for you," Julianne said, holding the newly loaded card out to Leo. "It has $1,002.33 on it. You keep it safe. Don't lose it." Leo pushed her hand back. "You keep it. I'm not holding on to it for you. See ya." "Hey, wait." Julianne wanted to say more, but Leo didn't give her a chance. He turned and walked away. Watching him stride off, Julianne didn't chase after him. She could have, but she didn't want to. Or rather, a part of her didn't want to give him the card. If she held on to it, she would have a reason to ask him to eat with her. But if he had taken it, she would have felt too awkward to join him, since all the money on it was his. Even though they'd agreed to share it, a girl still had her pride. How could she feel comfortable spending money that wasn't hers? Leo had thought of this, too. He was afraid that if he took the card, Julianne would be too self-conscious to eat with him. That's why he had left so quickly. Leo had just gotten back to the dorm when he saw Damian sitting at the dining table, slowly and deliberately savoring a small steak and sipping red wine. Before Leo could speak, Damian said, "I threw out your ramen for you. The cup is in the trash can in the living room. I just had someone take the trash out." "Oh, thanks," Leo nodded, not thinking much of it. It never occurred to him that Damian would have actually eaten the ramen. The character he had created was far too proud for that. Damian watched Leo's calm reaction. "You're not mad that I threw it out?" "Huh, why would I be mad?" Leo looked at him, surprised. Ramen is only good the second it's made. Once it gets waterlogged, it's basically paste. Even if you hadn't thrown it out, I would have tossed it myself when I got back. "Is that so?" Damian nodded thoughtfully. "Yeah, of course." Leo nodded back, an expert on the subject of instant noodles. Damian looked at Leo, as if wanting to say something more. "What is it?" Leo asked. "Something else on your mind?" "That, Damian hesitated, then shook his head. "It's nothing." "Okay, well, if that's it, I'm gonna go take a nap." Leo turned and headed back to his room. His and Damian's bedrooms were directly across from each other. The left door was Damian's, the right was his. The single rooms were small, just a bed, a desk, and a wardrobe, but having a private room in a dorm was already a luxury. Back at USC, Leo had lived in a 6-person suite with loft beds over desks, with absolutely zero personal space. Watching Leo disappear into his room and close the door, Damian let out a sigh of relief. He had wanted to confess to eating the ramen, but couldn't bring himself to do it. The words had gotten stuck in his throat. He looked down at the steak on his plate and suddenly found it tasteless. It sounded absurd, but he thought the ramen had been better. Leo would probably never guess that the cup of instant ramen he'd left on the table had accidentally sparked a very strange, new hobby in Damian Sterling. After lunch, Leo enjoyed a peaceful nap at his room. He was still groggy when his alarm went off. He got up, planning to wash his face before heading to class. But the moment he stepped out of his room, he saw Damian sitting on the sofa, clutching his stomach. His brow was furrowed in what looked like extreme discomfort, though he was still trying his best to maintain his elegant, alpha-billionaire posture. Leo's face fell. "You feeling sick to your stomach?" Damian managed a weak smile. "Is it that obvious?" "How could it not be?" Leo said, completely deadpan. "You're clutching your stomach and grimacing. You've basically got 'I feel sick' written across your forehead." Damian waved a dismissive hand. "It's nothing, just a bit of indigestion. It happens whenever I eat something unclean. I'm used to it. Don't worry about me, it'll pass." "You sure?" Leo stared at his face. "You look like you're in real pain. Do you have any Pepto-Bismol or something in your room?" Damian's expression turned serious. No, the great Damian Sterling would never need a stock medicine for a mere stomachache. "Enough. Now is not the time for your billionaire romance novel dialogue." Leo snapped. "If you don't have any medicine, I'm taking you to the campus clinic." "No, I'm not going." Damian waved his hand again. "A minor ailment is not worthy of my personal presence at the clinic. Stomach ache. I command you to leave my body at once. MMPH. "That's enough. Shut up." Leo slapped a hand over Damian's mouth, grabbed his arm, and dragged him out of the dorm. Inside the campus clinic, The campus doctor looked at Damian's pained expression. History of chronic gastritis? He asked. What did you have for lunch? Damian replied, lunch. The doctor's eye twitched. And what specifically was that lunch? Damian said, Western food prepared by my personal chef. Steak, bread, vegetables, that sort of thing. The doctor pressed on. Is that what you normally eat? Yes. And have you ever had stomach pain after eating these things before? No. I usually only get stomach pain when I don't eat. That doesn't make sense, the doctor said, frowning. The pain shouldn't have come on so suddenly. Did you eat anything else today? Damian hesitated, then shook his head. No. Are you sure? No. All right, fine, I did. Under the doctor's intense gaze, Damian finally confessed. I had a little bit of instant ramen for lunch. Huh. Leo, sitting beside him, stared wide-eyed. You ate the ramen from the table? Just a little bit. Damian turned away, too embarrassed to meet Leo's eyes. The doctor continued his questioning. Was it a spicy flavor? Yes, Damian nodded. And you don't usually eat spicy food, do you? Almost never. Then it's likely acute gastroenteritis, brought on by the spicy, oily food. I'll prescribe you something, and you should be fine. The doctor immediately started pulling medication from a cabinet. Leo watched this, amazed. You can tell what's wrong just by asking a few questions. Is there a problem? The doctor said with an air of absolute confidence. Before I took this job, you would have had to wait 2 years to get on my patient list at Ethelbert General. I've treated more illnesses than you've had hot dinners. Leo was speechless. He simply gave the man a silent thumbs up. After getting the prescription, Leo got Damian a cup of water. Damian found a quiet corner in the clinic, sat down, and took the medicine. Sure enough, the stomach pain began to subside. Leo checked the time. Their first afternoon class was already half over. He figured they might as well just skip it and go to the next one. They'd already messaged their TA to get an excused absence. Do you think I'm weird? Damian asked suddenly after a long silence. Weird. Leo turned to look at him. Weird how? Damian met his gaze. For eating your ramen. Don't you think it's strange? What's so strange about it? Leo asked back. I'm Damian Sterling, Damian said. I talk a big game about not eating that kind of low-class food, but then I sneak around behind your back to eat the ramen you were going to throw away. And I end up with acute gastritis. Don't you think that's pathetic? Ramen's pretty good, though, Leo said with a small smile. And besides, when it comes to food, there's no such thing as high class or low class. If it tastes good and you like it, that's all that matters. I'm the heir to one of Ethelberg's most powerful families, and I love ramen. So what? Leo's words hit Damian like a revelation. He's right. What does high or low class have to do with food? He only looked down on ramen because his upbringing had taught him to, not because he disliked the taste. That ingrained mindset was the only thing holding him back. Have you ever had fried chicken? Damian asked abruptly. Of course. Is it good? Damian asked, a hint of a bashful smile on his face. It's embarrassing to admit, but I've never had it. Every time I pass a KFC or a McDonald's, I always wonder what that stuff tastes like. Leo was stunned. Damian Sterling, the all-powerful male lead of his novel, had never even eaten fried chicken. It was almost comical. A good author could write characters with flesh and blood, characters a reader could truly connect with. But a hack like him could only create one-dimensional cutouts, because some of his premises were fundamentally illogical. At that moment, Leo finally realized just how absurdly he had written his own book. Looks like it's not just the villainous who needs saving. Do you want to try fried chicken? Leo asked, his voice serious. I mean, do you want to break free from all that programming and try the things you've always wanted to try, but never have? Yes, very much so, Damian said without a second's hesitation. Leo's expression was earnest. Then go try them. Go be a different version of yourself. A different version of myself? Damian repeated, and in that instant, a new light flickered in his eyes. Leo and Damian made it back to the classroom just as the break between classes was ending. A quick scan of the room revealed 2 empty seats right in front of Julianne and Serafina Rose, which they had clearly saved for them. He led Damian over. Julianne looked Leo up and down, then did the same to Damian. So, which one of you was sick? Him, obviously, Leo said, pointing at Damian. I'm in peak physical condition. My body is a temple. Will I ever get sick? Damian tugged on Leo's sleeve and whispered, give me a break, man. A little face saving here. Ahem, Leo realized Damian had a point. He shouldn't embarrass him in front of Serafina. He quickly tried to recover. He's in great shape too, really. Just had a flare-up of an old issue this afternoon. So we went to the clinic. Julianne squinted, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. And how would you know how good his shape is? Leo ignored her question, focused on her sly smile. What's with that look? Julianne giggled, covering her mouth. Nothing, nothing. You're definitely not thinking anything wholesome about us, Leo grumbled, rolling his eyes. Serafina looked up at Damian with genuine concern. What happened to you? Damian waved a hand, affecting a casual air. Nothing, just a minor stomach issue. A stomach issue? Serafina frowned. Is it because you don't eat at regular times? Maybe, perhaps. Damian deliberately turned his head, avoiding eye contact with her. Leo saw a flicker of shyness in his expression. A thought began to brew in Leo's mind. According to the plot, they're not supposed to get together this fast. Could it be because of me? Did I screw things up so badly that these two, who were supposed to be bickering rivals, skipped straight to the are-they/aren't they stage? What kind of ripple effect will that have? Hey, are you even listening to me? Julianne's voice snapped Leo out of his thoughts. He looked up, completely lost. Huh? What did you say? You really weren't listening. Julianne gave him an exasperated eye roll before repeating herself. I said, I'm going to start serializing my web novel. Her words stunned him for a moment. Serializing your web novel? Serafina, who had been focused on Damian, now turned to Leo. Julianne told me you're the one who gave her the confidence to finally start writing. It sounds like you two were meeting up secretly over the weekend. Hearing this, Julianne's face turned bright red. She leaned over and whispered in Serafina's ear, Serafina, can't you read the room? Damian, ever the clueless wingman, leaned in and added, Leo, my family's hotel chain has a record of you checking in near a place. Don't tell me you too. MMPH. Before Damian could finish, Leo, his own face beet red, clapped a hand over his mouth. Can't you read the room? You can't just say things like that. With those two cluelessly fanning the flames, the atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Leo and Julianne were too embarrassed to talk about the novel anymore. Fortunately, the bell for the next class rang. Leo quickly turned around, pretending to be intensely focused on the blackboard. In his previous life, Leo had been an English major. Now, transported into his own book, he was a finance major. And finance meant math. The next 3 hours were all advanced calculus. He'd missed the first hour, and now the professor was deep into a lecture, rattling off a string of incomprehensible formulas that were quickly lulling Leo to sleep. He rubbed his heavy eyelids and glanced at Damian, who was listening with rapt attention, the very picture of a model student. Right, I did write him as a genius. After another 10 minutes, Leo couldn't take it anymore. His eyelids sank, and his forehead hit the desk with a soft thud. Damian glanced over at the sleeping Leo and thought, how can anyone fall asleep listening to something this simple? Just then, the professor called for a volunteer. Julianne, sitting behind Leo, saw him dead to the world. A wicked smile played on her lips, and she raised her hand. The math professor quickly noticed her, and the student slumped over his desk in front of her. Yes, the young lady with her hand up. Could you please wake up the gentleman sleeping in front of you? At this, Julianne lifted her foot and gave Leo's chair a sharp kick. The jolt threw Leo off balance. He snapped his eyes open and twisted around to glare at her. What was that for? Julianne gave him a little wink. Have a nice nap? Leo's brain was still foggy. Staring into her beautiful eyes, he felt even more dazed. The tiny heart-shaped beauty mark under her left eye seemed to have a magnetic pull, drawing his gaze against his will. The sleepy gentleman, the professor said, why don't you come up and solve this problem on the board? It might help you wake up. Leo looked at the equation on the board, then pointed at his own face. Me? Yes, you, the professor nodded. Can you do it? Leo studied the problem. It looked vaguely familiar, something he'd probably done as a freshman, but it had been years since he'd been in school. Plus, he'd slept through the lecture. There was no way. He shook his head numbly. Probably not. Very well. The professor didn't press him. The young lady behind him, can you solve it? Yes, Julianne said. She walked up to the board, solved the problem in a few quick steps, and then strode confidently back to her seat, shooting Leo a triumphant little eyebrow raise as she passed. The young lady's solution is correct, the professor announced. All right, you may both be seated. The moment Leo sat down, Julianne's voice floated from behind him. You can thank me now. I saved you. You're the one who got me into this mess. Leo shot back with a glare. If you hadn't raised your hand, the professor never would have noticed me. I don't care, Julianne said playfully. The fact is, I got you out of it. Fine, fine, you're the brilliant one, okay? Leo conceded. I owe you one. Julianne laughed, poking him in the back with her pen. Pay attention. Don't fall asleep again. I know, Leo muttered, then added under his breath. The professor doesn't even care. In college, most professors didn't police students. If you wanted to listen, you listened. If you wanted to sleep, they wouldn't stop you. It wasn't high school. But a few were stricter, and this math professor was clearly not one of them. The back 3 rows of the class were already completely asleep. Sitting next to Leo, Damian watched the entire exchange, and for the first time, a genuine smile spread across his face. Leo turned to him. "What are you smiling at?" Damian leaned in and whispered, "Don't you think Julianne Hale is really lively and cute? She's clever and fun." "Whoa, are you crazy?" Leo glanced furtively at Julianne, who was now looking down at her book, then leaned close to Damian's ear. "Listen to me," he whispered urgently. "That's all an act. She has a terrible temper, she's manipulative, petty, and holds a grudge forever. You can't handle a girl like that. You absolutely cannot fall for her. You hear me?" "Huh?" Damian scratched his head, confused. "I mean, I think she's interesting, but that doesn't mean I'm going to fall in love with her. Besides, why are you getting so worked up? From what I've seen, she's not nearly as bad as you're making her out to be." Leo gritted his teeth. "Just stay away from her." "Got it." Seeing how agitated Leo was, a thought began to form in Damian's mind. He gets this defensive the moment I mention Julianne. Could it be he likes her? Yes, that must be it. As his best bro, the bonds of male friendship are often forged in mysterious ways. I have to help him. At this realization, Damian's eyes lit up. He gave Leo a firm thumbs up. "Got it. Good," Leo said, patting Damian's shoulder, relieved. Damian looked at Leo with a newfound determination, thinking to himself, "Don't worry, bro. I'll help you win Julianne Hale's heart." To them, their huddled, shoulder-to-shoulder conversation seemed perfectly normal. But to Serafina, sitting in the row behind them, it was anything but. She saw the intense look in Damian's eyes as he gazed at Leo, and her own pupils constricted as if she'd just uncovered a world-shattering secret. Could Damian be in love with Leo? The moment the thought entered her mind, Serafina gasped, covering her mouth. Suddenly, it all made sense. Why Damian was always so aloof when she talked to him. Why he always turned away and avoided eye contact. It was because he wasn't interested in girls at all. In reality, Damian had a crush on Serafina, but was too shy and bound by his status to express it, so he feigned coolness. But in Serafina's mind, the narrative had taken a sharp, dramatic turn. Adding in Leo's comment from earlier, "He's in great shape too," really only solidified her theory. Their relationship was definitely not ordinary. Meanwhile, Julianne was paying no attention to any of this. She was hunched over her notebook, not doing math, but absent-mindedly sketching out a character relationship chart for her novel. Every so often, she would recall Leo's determined words. "Wait until you're a famous author and rolling in royalties to pay me back." She would sneak a peek at the back of his head and find herself smiling. To summarize the current situation, Leo, hearing Damian praise Julianne, thought he was falling for the villainess just like in the original story. Damian, seeing Leo's over-the-top reaction, was now convinced Leo had a crush on Julianne and was determined to play matchmaker. Serafina, watching the two boys whisper intimately, was now certain Damian was in love with Leo. And as for Julianne, it seemed she was already developing feelings for Leo. The plot was now a complete and utter mess. And the catalyst, Leo Miller, was blissfully unaware of it all. After surviving the rest of the math block, Leo let out a long sigh of relief. The moment he stepped out of the classroom, he felt like he'd been reborn. If I'd known finance was going to be this hard, he thought, I would have transferred back to the English department on the first day. Then the plot wouldn't be so messed up, and I could just be a rich kid in peace. Now, not only was he not a rich kid, he had to constantly worry about the story derailing, though he had no idea it had already gone completely off the rails. Grumble. His stomach's untimely protest snapped him back to reality. He shook his head. Whatever. No point thinking about it now. Food is the priority. He stood by the classroom door, waiting for Julianne to pack her bag so they could go to the cafeteria together. Girls always took longer to get ready. She and Serafina were among the last to leave. "Serafina, I'm going to head off. Leo and I are getting dinner," Julianne said. She had already explained the shared meal card situation to her at lunch, so no further explanation was needed. "Okay," Serafina nodded. The two had just left when Damian walked up to Serafina. "I was thinking of trying the cafeteria food," he said quietly, "but I don't have a meal card. Would you mind swiping for me?" "Huh?" Serafina looked at him, surprised. The great Damian Sterling, interested in the lowbrow food from the school cafeteria? "You can thank Leo for that," Damian said, a faint smile touching his lips. "He inspired me, told me I should try new things, be a different version of myself. I think he's right." Serafina's jaw dropped. She stared at him in shock. "Try new things?" They inspired each other. Oh, this was scandalous. Damian's words, filtered through Seraphina's ears, had taken on an entirely different meaning. In that moment, her belief that Damian was in love with Leo became an unshakable conviction. For some reason, her heart felt strangely empty. Seraphina? Seraphina? Damian's voice pulled her back to reality. Oh. Damian's voice pulled her back to reality. So, he asked again, could you help me with the card? Yes. Of course, Seraphina replied distractedly. Let's go. To the cafeteria. Great. Damian nodded. She agreed to help me, which means she's indirectly agreeing to eat with me. And eating together means our relationship is moving to the next level, right? He felt a surge of happiness, but kept his expression carefully neutral. The truth was, since that day at the clinic, Damian had started to develop feelings for Seraphina. He'd started paying attention to her, and the more he watched, the more he discovered her quiet strengths and gentle nature. He liked her. He liked her more and more every day. Is that all you're eating for dinner? Leo asked, looking at Julianne's still sparse tray. It had a bit more meat than lunch, but was still mostly vegetables. You don't have to save my money. Get whatever you want. No, this is enough for me at night, she said, shaking her head. Eating too much in the evening makes you gain weight. Leo eyed her suspiciously. You're being awfully strict with your diet. You're not plotting something, are you? I am, Julianne said with a grin, joking. I have to maintain my figure, so I can snag a rich heir and marry into money. That kind of thinking is dangerous. Leo leaned in closer, whispering conspiratorially. You're not trying to hook Damian, are you? I'm telling you, as long as I'm around, your evil plan will never succeed. As he spoke, his warm breath tickled her ear, sending a pleasant shiver through her. She blushed and pushed him away, glaring. What does Damian have to do with anything? You said you wanted to marry into a rich family, didn't you? He retorted. The Sterlings aren't the only rich family in the world, Julianne shot back. Your family, the Millers, are loaded too, aren't they? Why can't I just hook you? She finished with a slight arch of her eyebrow, a playful and bewitching smile on her face. Leo froze, completely mesmerized by her smile. He wasn't sure if Damian could withstand Julianne's charms, but if she ever set her sights on him, he knew he'd be a lost cause. He'd never even been on a real date, let alone been pursued by a girl. Dinner for the two of them came to $30, $17 for Leo, $13 for Julianne. After paying, Leo stopped by the beverage counter and ordered 2 boba teas. He placed them on the table. Coconut sago or mango sago? Your pick. Julianne grumbled. These 2 drinks cost $20. That's enough for another whole meal. I told you, you don't have to save my money. But, are you going to drink it or not? If not, I'm drinking both. I'll drink it. I want the coconut one. Seeing Leo preparing to stick straws in both cups, Julianne quickly snatched the coconut sago and took a sip. Leo propped his elbow on the table, resting his chin in his hand as he watched her. Is it good? Delicious, she said, chewing on the sago pearls. How did you know I like coconut-flavored things? Huh? I did. I had no idea. Leo shook his head. I just picked 2 at random. Julianne tilted her head up. Well, it's okay that you didn't know. You know now. Her cuteness made him laugh. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. Julianne, however, didn't touch her food. She watched him. I'm going to start writing my novel online. Leo, shamelessly tearing into a chicken leg with his hands, mumbled through a mouthful. Billionaire CEO romances are dead. Give it up. Julianne stared at him, surprised. How did you know I was going to write a billionaire romance? Leo chewed thoughtfully. Because I'm a mind reader. Please, she scoffed. You're not that smart. You just peeked at my notebook. Besides, I'm not writing about a billionaire falling for a poor girl. Then what are you writing? Leo put down the chicken leg and met her beautiful eyes. He enunciated each word clearly. Don't tell me it's another one of those tired cliché soap operas where a rich heiress hides her identity to attend an elite school, runs into an arrogant, domineering CEO, and they start a love-hate relationship. At a nearby table, achoo, Seraphina suddenly sneezed. What's wrong? Damian asked, pulling out a silk handkerchief. Are you catching a cold? No. Seraphina shook her head, accepting the handkerchief to dab her nose. It's only September. The weather is still so warm. How could I catch a cold? I guess that's true, Damian mumbled, scratching his head. Seraphina looked at the now-used handkerchief. I'm sorry. Should I take this back and wash it for you? Damian smiled. Don't worry about it. You could just throw it away. Okay, then. Seraphina assumed he was just a bit of a germaphobe. He's actually a pretty thoughtful guy, she thought, looking at the handkerchief. A shame he doesn't like girls. Back to Leo's perspective. Julianne's eyes were wide with astonishment. That's the exact plot I spent all last night coming up with. How did you know? Of course he knew. It was precisely the kind of trashy plot that had made him a hack writer and gotten him dragged into this world in the first place. But he couldn't very well tell her that. That kind of cliché billionaire novel is all over the internet, Leo said, rolling his eyes. The standard is either CEO falls for Cinderella, or CEO goes undercover as a poor guy to win over Cinderella, or the CEO chases a Cinderella who's secretly a rich heiress. If all else fails, you have a CEO and the heiress both go undercover and have a dramatic enemies-to-lovers arc that ends with them both revealing their true identities. Wait. Julianne cut him off. How do you know all the billionaire romance tropes so well? That's because I'm a web novel. Leo, in his excitement, almost blurted out that he was a novelist. He caught himself just in time. Julianne frowned. You're a web novel what? Why do you stop mid-sentence? I'm a web novel. Leo paused for a few seconds. A web novel connoisseur. I read widely, both male and female-oriented fiction, so I'm very familiar with all the old tropes. Really? A hint of doubt flickered in her foxy eyes. Of course, Leo nodded emphatically. Would I lie about that? She nodded, only half convinced. Since you're such an expert, then tell me, besides the common tropes you just mentioned, are there any fresher, more interesting ideas for a billionaire romance? Leo answered without hesitation. Writing a billionaire romance is a dead end. What? Julianne frowned. Why? Don't most girls love to read stories about handsome, rich guys in suits relentlessly pursuing them? No. Leo wagged his index finger. The times have changed. That genre is out of style. Then what should I write, according to you? Julianne crossed her arms. Leo picked up his chicken leg and thought for a long time. If you really want to write something, write a sweet, slice-of-life romance. A slice-of-life romance. Julianne stared at him, blinking. Yes, a slice-of-life romance. Leo began to break it down for her. Look, at its core, a billionaire romance is just a sweet love story, right? It's about falling in love with a handsome guy. Why does that guy have to be an unrealistic, fictional character who spouts embarrassing, alpha male one-liners all day? At the nearby table. Achoo. Damian sneezed, too. Serafina immediately pulled a pack of tissues from her purse, took one out, and handed it to him. The tissue carried a pleasant, subtle scent of sandalwood, an elegant fragrance that was as understated and gentle as she was. After using it, Damian found he was reluctant to throw it away. She smiled gently. You're sneezing too? Damian shook his head, baffled. No idea. Someone must be talking trash about me behind my back. Pfft. Hearing his silly comment, Serafina covered her mouth, her smile growing wider. Back to Leo again. After listening to Leo's analysis, Julianne nodded seriously. You actually make a lot of sense. But wouldn't a normal slice-of-life story be less appealing to readers? Leo spread his hands. So don't make it normal. The plot is something you create. Julianne pouted, tapping her chin as she fell into deep thought. Leo picked up his chicken leg again. Stop thinking for now. Eat your food before it gets cold. Julianne waved him off. Let me just think for a little longer. No more thinking. Eat. Leo rolled his eyes at her. With a widely read connoisseur like me to help you, you're guaranteed to become a great author. Julianne put down her chopsticks and scooted closer to him. Then tell me more about the plot right now. The moment she moved closer, that pleasant white tea fragrance filled his senses again. They were so close he could feel the warmth radiating from her. If he turned his head just slightly, he would have a perfect view of her flawlessly sculpted face. That tiny heart-shaped beauty mark on her left eye was so small, yet so impossibly captivating. Gulp. Leo swallowed, his heart suddenly pounding. He shifted slightly away. Finish your food first. We could discuss the plot after you're done eating. Deal. Julianne had no intention of moving back. She pulled her tray over and ate sitting right next to him. She didn't think anything of it. She just wanted to finish eating quickly so they could talk about her novel. But Leo was suddenly shy. With her sitting so close, his eating slowed to a crawl, while his heartbeat sped up. Did she cast a spell on me? He wondered. Why is my heart racing like this? Though Leo had started eating first, Julianne finished first. The moment she was done, she started rushing him. Harried, Leo had no time for his racing thoughts. He quickly polished off his food, and they left the cafeteria together. They walked aimlessly out of the building, talking about the novel the entire time. Before they knew it, they had wandered over to the athletic field. Stop. Leo, tired of the topic, finally called a halt. With a novel, you can talk all you want, but you won't know the real problems until you start writing. Julianne nodded. You've given me a lot of ideas, though. Thanks. Don't mention it. Leo waved his hand. Thank me when you're a famous author. Julianne nodded seriously. With you saying that, I'll definitely make it. Seeing her earnest expression, Leo was reminded of his own past self, full of ambition and fire. He pursed his lips and smiled softly. Julianne saw his smile and thought he was mocking her. She frowned. You don't believe me, do you? Of course I believe you, Leo said, nodding. You're Julianne Hale, after all. He only said half the sentence out loud. The other half remained in his thoughts. You're Julianne Hale, the relentless girl from my book who never gives up until she gets what she wants. If you're not a villainess, with your intelligence and perseverance, is there anything you couldn't succeed at? Really? Julianne tilted her head, looking him in the eye. Then what were you smiling about? I was smiling because your serious expression just now reminded me of myself. Leo touched his nose, a little embarrassed. Hearing this, Julianne felt a little embarrassed too. I'll just take that as a compliment. Leo sat down on the bleachers. Back at USC, he and his roommates used to do this every evening after dinner. Take a walk around the track, sit on the bleachers, watch the pretty girls in shorts, and talk about how to get a date. Julianne sat down next to him, her gaze following his out onto the field. On the track, people walked in small groups, and there were plenty of couples. The new ones were shy, leaving a small gap between them. The ones who'd been together longer held hands openly. She turned and glanced at Leo, whose thoughts had clearly drifted far away. For a moment, she wondered if the people on the track, looking up at the bleachers, would think that they were a new couple too. Leo suddenly snapped back to reality and turned his head, his eyes meeting hers. What are you staring at me for? Who's staring at you? You're so narcissistic. Julianne's face flushed red as she stood up to leave. Where are you going? Back to my dorm to write. You got an idea? I'm bursting with inspiration. Just as she was leaving, a thought struck Leo. He called out, Wait, hold on. What now? Julianne turned back to him. Artistic creation can't be detached from reality, he said. Otherwise. Julianne frowned. Otherwise what? Otherwise it'll be super cringy. I know. It won't be detached from reality, she said, then gave him a mischievous smile before turning and walking down the bleachers. Strange, Charles Miller murmured, leaning back in his executive chair. I froze all the kids' accounts, but he hasn't called me to beg even once. He turned to his assistant. Did the young master eat at the cafeteria today? He did, the assistant replied, looking at a tablet. He went with a young woman. The assistant placed the tablet on the desk. The screen showed a picture of Leo and Julianne sitting side by side, each holding a boba tea, smiling. They looked for all the world like a new couple. Charles frowned at the image. What's this? Is he dating someone? Didn't he say he wasn't? And how is he paying for dates with no money? The assistant asked, Shall I unfreeze the young master's account, sir? Not yet. Charles stroked his chin, a sly grin spreading across his face. The little rascal must be pretending to be poor to woo this girl. That has to be it. It's a classic move I used myself back in the day. From his smile, it was clear Charles Miller was thrilled at the prospect of his son following in his footsteps as a legendary heartbreaker. Thank you for tonight. If you hadn't swiped your card for me, I never would have been able to try the school's dinner, Damian said solemnly to Serafina at the cafeteria entrance. Serafina looked at him, a little flustered. It was just a swipe of a card. You don't have to be so formal about it. Was I being too formal? Damian scratched his head, smiling sheepishly. Maybe it's because this was a completely new experience for me. Serafina asked curiously, You've never eaten this kind of food before? I guess. I really haven't, Damian admitted, shaking his head. From the day I was born, I've had specialists designing my meal plans. There are only a few specific things I'm allowed to eat. To emphasize his alpha billionaire status, Leo had written in the novel that Damian traveled with a personal chef because he would only eat food prepared by his own staff, an absurdly restrictive rule that had, in reality, made Damian's life miserable. What? Serafina gasped. So you're saying that your entire life, you've never eaten food made by anyone other than your personal chef? That's probably right, Damian nodded. As far back as I can remember, my entire life has been planned out for me. Every day is exactly the same. Hearing this, Serafina whispered to herself, to think there's someone else in the world as miserable as me. What novelty? What did you say? Damian asked. Oh, nothing. You must have misheard. I didn't say anything. Serafina waved her hands. So, does that mean tonight's dinner was the first proper meal you've ever had that wasn't made by your own chef? Damian thought of the instant ramen he'd eaten for lunch. That was probably just a snack. So he nodded. Yes, this was my first real meal prepared by someone else. Serafina couldn't help but laugh. You should have said so earlier. I would have taken you somewhere nice. Tonight's meal was great. And more importantly, you were here with me. He didn't have the courage to say the last part out loud. Seeing him trail off, Serafina asked, "More importantly, what?" "Nothing, never mind." Damian waved it off. "How much was dinner?" "I can Venmo you." "Don't worry about it," Serafina said. "It's just one meal. It wasn't expensive. My treat." "Well, okay." Damian didn't press the issue. If she treated him this time, he could treat her next time. It was the perfect excuse to ask her out again. Thinking this, he said, "Then let me treat you to lunch tomorrow." "Lunch?" Serafina smiled. "You don't even have a meal card. How are you going to treat me to lunch? A mere meal card? I could have 100 of them in minutes." Damian flashed a classic, confident billionaire smirk. "Besides, who said I was taking you to the cafeteria?" Serafina pursed her lips, hiding a small laugh as she tilted her head to look at him. "Then were you planning on taking me for lunch?" Her question clearly caught him off guard. He froze for a second before recovering. "I'll tell you tomorrow. I bet you just haven't thought of a place yet," Serafina teased, her tone light enough to not make it awkward. "Who says? I've already got it all planned out." Damian insisted, though he couldn't quite meet her eyes. "All right then," Serafina nodded. "It's a date then," Damian said. "I'll treat you to lunch tomorrow." With that, he waved goodbye and headed toward the men's dorm. Serafina watched him go, a sudden sigh escaping her lips. In many ways, her life was a mirror of his. As the heiress of the Rose family, she was always in the spotlight. Like a celebrity living under a microscope, every word, every action had to be graceful and proper, able to withstand scrutiny, because her behavior reflected on her entire family. She had lived a very tiring life. It was only after hiding her background and coming to Ethelberg that she had finally tasted that long-lost thing called freedom. Behind their glamorous exteriors, these two youths both carried the weight of an unhappy childhood. Damian had just gotten back to the dorm when Leo walked in right behind him. Spotting Damian sitting on the sofa with a goofy, happy grin on his face, Leo snuck up behind him. "Was dinner good?" he asked in a low voice. Damian, lost in thought, jumped a foot in the air. He spun around to see Leo. "When did you get back?" "You scare me." "Just now? My footsteps are that loud. You didn't hear me?" Leo stood with his hands in his pockets, a wicked grin on his face. "Or were you just a little too lost in thought?" Damian immediately incriminated himself. I wasn't thinking about Serafina, so don't even start." "Whoa, I didn't even say what you were thinking about, and you're already confessing." Leo sat down next to him, beaming. "That is a classic sign of a guilty conscience." "I do not have a guilty conscience," Damian denied, then shot back. "How did you know I had dinner with Serafina anyway?" Leo shrugged. "I saw you, obviously." "You saw us eating together?" Damian asked. "Yep," Leo nodded, his face a mask of gossip-hungry curiosity. "You and Serafina are moving fast, already having meals together." Damian shot to his feet. "It's not what you think. I just needed to borrow her meal card." "No need to explain. I get it." Leo made an okay sign. The classic moves to woo a girl. "It's not. Forget it. There's no talking to you. I'm done." Damian threw up his hands, turned on his heel, and stalked into his room, shutting the door behind him. TSK, getting all defensive after being called out, Leo muttered to himself before getting up and heading to his own room. He lay on his bed, scrolling through his phone for a while, but nothing held his interest. He subconsciously opened his messaging app. Julianne hadn't texted him. He figured she was probably focused on writing her novel. He climbed out of bed and went to his desk. Pulling out a notebook and a pen, he decided to write down some writing tips for her. Even though he was a hack author himself, he had written several books and had at least some experience he could pass on. Knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" Leo was just about to finish his list of writing tips when someone knocked on his bedroom door. It had to be Damian. No one else was in the suite. "It's me, Damian." "Come in. It's not locked." Click. Damian opened the door and walked in. Seeing Leo hunched over his desk, he asked quietly, "Am I interrupting?" "It's fine." Leo shook his head. "I was almost done anyway." Damian pulled up a chair and sat next to him. "What are you writing?" "Some thoughts on writing," Leo said without looking up. "Are you a writer?" Damian asked curiously. "I am not." Leo denied instantly. "I just read a lot, so I wanted to write down some feedback from a reader's perspective." "Feedback? From a reader's perspective?" Damian scratched his head. "Shouldn't that just be called reading notes?" Leo couldn't be bothered to explain. "I say it's writing feedback, so that's what it is. Just go with it." Okay." Damian glanced at the notebook. "Are you writing this specifically for Julianne?" "Bullshit," Leo retorted again. "Who the hell is Julianne Hale? Why would I go out of my way to write this for her? Does she deserve it?" "Then how come?" Before Damian could finish, Leo was already defending himself. "It just so happens that I had nothing to do tonight, and I just so happen to have a few ideas, so I wrote them down to kill time." It is absolutely not for anyone in particular. Damian crossed his arms, looking at Leo. And I suppose you're also going to just so happen to give these notes to Julianne when you're done? Of course. Not. Leo had almost said, of course I am, but caught himself. Am I right? Damian smiled faintly. From his expression, it was clear he didn't believe a word of it. Leo felt a little awkward and quickly changed the subject. So, you came to find me for something? Yeah, Damian said. I asked Serafina to lunch tomorrow, but I have no idea where to take her. I was hoping you might have some suggestions. You're taking a girl to lunch? You have to go somewhere nice. Leo said immediately. Something you don't eat often, like a fancy steakhouse or something. Something I don't eat often, like a steakhouse. Damian repeated. What Leo meant was for Damian to take Serafina to a high-end restaurant for a prime steak and a bottle of vintage wine. After all, as a future billionaire CEO, a meal that didn't cost a few $1,000s would be completely out of character. But Damian seemed to have misunderstood. For him, steak and red wine were daily staples. They were definitely not things he didn't eat often. On the other hand, Western fast food like KFC and McDonald's. He'd truly never had those. At this thought, Damian's eyes lit up. Oh, I get it. Leo was confused. You pick a restaurant already? Yep, all picked out. Damian nodded. Thanks for the advice, Miller. No problem, Sterling, Leo said, puffing out his chest. We're bros. Anything else besides the lunch thing? Nope, that's it. Damian stood up. I'll let you get back to writing your notes for Julianne. Right. I'll get back to my notes for Julianne. Leo nodded, then paused, realizing what he'd said. He quickly shouted at Damian, who was already at the door. I told you, they're not for her. You just admitted it yourself. Damian chuckled, then closed the door. That kid. Leo shook his head, amused. He's definitely getting back at me for teasing him in the living room. Perhaps Leo himself hadn't noticed, but after just a few weeks of living together, Damian's personality had already changed significantly. After returning to his room, Damian took out his phone and browsed the KFC and McDonald's apps, agonizing over the choice. If Serafina knew that the great Damian Sterling was torn between taking her to McDonald's or KFC for their first date, one could only imagine her reaction. Ultimately, he decided on McDonald's. The reason was simple. There was one on campus, while the nearest KFC was in the shopping center across the street. Closer was better. Not long after Damian left, Leo finished his writing guide. It was 5 full pages, the culmination of 2.5 years of his own writing experience. He hoped it would be of some help to Julianne. He closed the notebook, capped his pen, and picked up his phone. Ping. Just then, a message from Julianne popped up. Julianne Hale, what are you up to? Leo glanced at the notebook on his desk, thought for a second, then typed back. Leo Miller. Lying in bed, scrolling on my phone. Julianne Hale, you're such a pig. Leo Miller. How dare you? You dare insult me? Julianne Hale. Casey followed it up with a smug, troll face sticker. Looking at the sticker, Leo's face darkened. He suddenly no longer felt like giving her the notes he'd worked so hard on. Leo Miller. What do you want? If it's nothing, don't bother me. I'm busy watching TikToks. It was strange. Deep down, Leo wanted to chat with her, but he couldn't stop himself from feigning annoyance. Julianne Hale. What's so good about TikTok? Stop watching and come talk to me about my novel. Leo Miller. I refuse. Novels are way less interesting than thirst traps. Julianne Hale. You are so vulgar. Leo Miller. It's called being a man. After a moment, she replied. Julianne Hale. If you talk to me about writing, I'll show you my legs. How about that? Leo Miller. Huh? Do you think I'm that shallow? Leo Miller. Yes. Yes, I am. Julianne Hale. I only wrote a few hundred words for the opening tonight, and now I'm stuck. This is so hard. Leo Miller. It's always like that at the beginning. You just have to write more and practice. Julianne Hale. Do you have any good? Leo sat with his phone, seriously chatting with Julianne for a full hour. Absolutely not, because he wanted to see her legs. Julianne Hale. Okay. Thanks for your help. I'm getting sleepy. Let's call it a night. Leo immediately fired back a message. Leo Miller. Wait, aren't you forgetting something? Julianne Hale, what? Leo Miller. You promised to show me your legs. Julianne Hale. Oh, right. Hold on. I'll take a picture. A moment later, an image came through. It was a picture of a glistening, braised pig's trotter. Leo stared at the photo, furious. Leo Miller. What the hell is this? Julianne Hale. I said I'd show you a leg. I never said it would be my leg. Leo Miller. You little brat. You dare to trick me. Julianne Hale. Well, it's your own fault for being so dumb. Dummy. Lying on her bed, Julianne swung her slender, fair feet back and forth, a brilliant smile on her face as she watched Leo's string of angry face emojis pop up on her screen. Dummy, she giggled. Hee hee. Good morning, everyone. I'm your academic advisor for the finance program. My name is Zhao Chase, but you can just call me Mr. Chase. It's an honor to be with you all for the next 4 years. Before we get into our first official class meeting, there are 2 quick announcements. The man on the stage, youngish with gold-rimmed glasses and a trim build, was their designated guide through the freshman maze. As a minor character, Leo hadn't given the advisor much thought in his original manuscript, not even a first name. He'd always just been the advisor. Hearing the nameless character from his own story introduce himself with a full name, Zhao Chase felt interesting. It was as if he'd scribbled down a book and accidentally created a living, breathing world. It was a strange, magical feeling. Mr. Chase paused for effect. This Sunday at 8 p.m., the university is hosting the freshman welcome concert on the main athletic field. Anyone interested should definitely check it out. It's a great way to get involved in campus life. He cleared his throat. Second, there's a planned water shutdown for pipe maintenance in the residential zone. This Friday night, all dorm buildings will be without water. The shutdown will last from 8 p.m. Friday to 8 a.m. Sunday, 36 hours total. I'd suggest that anyone who can go home for the weekend do so. If you have to stay on campus, please stock up on water beforehand. We'll all have to make the best of it. Leo recognized both announcements. They were the catalyst for the next 2 major plot points. The first was the welcome concert. Serafina Rose, dressed to kill, would be mistaken for a music major scheduled to perform and get hustled onto the stage by a frantic stagehand. The real singer would be indisposed, dealing with a bad case of food poisoning in a bathroom stall. Pushed into the spotlight, Serafina would nervously sing along to the backing track, her performance stunning the entire audience and cementing her status as the campus sweetheart, a true USC celebrity. Her moment on stage would be the final arrow that pierced Damian Sterling's heart, the point of no return where he realized he was completely, irrevocably in love with her. As for the water shutdown, Serafina had run away from home to enroll at Ethelberg, defying her family, so going home for the weekend was out of the question. She'd inevitably run out of her stored water and decide to get a hotel room off campus just to shower. But the moment she stepped off university grounds, she'd be spotted by the bodyguard her family had sent to find her. She'd turn and run, and right on cue, Damian Sterling would appear. Mistaking the bodyguards for thugs, he'd pull her into his car and whisk her away to the safety of his family's hotel. Don't ask why the male lead always managed to be in the right place at the right time. The answer was always, plot demands it. What are you so lost in thought about? Julianne nudged him with her elbow. Why are you ignoring me? Pulled from his narrative reverie, Leo looked at Julianne with a blank expression. Were you talking to me? Who else? She rolled her eyes. Am I talking to a ghost? University classes meant open seating. During this meeting, Damian and Serafina were in the third-to-last row, whispering about lunch plans. Leo and Julianne were in the second-to-last row, discussing novel writing. Julianne's other 2 roommates were in the back, heads down, absorbed in their phones. Julianne leaned closer. What you said last night, about not making the villain's ending too tragic. I'm still not sure I get what you meant. Leo stared at her face for a few seconds. Just don't give the main villain too much screen time. And try not to, kill her off in the finale. You called her the main villain. If you don't kill her off, what's the point? Julianne frowned. Keep her around to marry her off at Christmas? The image that conjured made Leo's vision swim. You're writing a romance novel, he said, his voice strained. Why does it have to have some big evil villain? Who even reads those super angsty, tragic stories anymore? Why not just write a sweet, slice-of-life romance? Wouldn't that be better? You might have a point, Julianne said, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Just trust me on this. I'm a veteran reader of web novels. I know what I'm talking about, Leo said, puffing out his chest with an air of unearned confidence. On stage, Mr. Chase was scanning the crowd, looking for someone to start the self-introductions. His eyes landed on Leo, who was at that very moment thumping his own chest. All right, we have a volunteer, he announced, pointing directly at him. You can be the first to introduce yourself. Wait, what? Leo's face fell. He stared, dumbfounded, at the advisor pointing his way. Julianne covered her mouth, her eyes crinkling with schadenfreude. Go on, get up there, she whispered, urging him forward. Your turn to shine, Leo. She gave his thigh a light, encouraging pat. Leo shot her a look that screamed, you're next. He walked to the front of the room, took a moment to compose himself, and spoke. Hi, everyone. My name is Leo Miller. I'm glad to be your classmate. While Leo was on stage, Julianne was busy taking unflattering photos of him with her phone. The ones that weren't bad enough, she promptly edited to make them worse. Leo finished in 3 short sentences and looked back at the advisor. Mr. Chase looked back, equally surprised. That's it. He had seen Leo's confident display in the audience and expected a speech. I'm a pretty average guy, not much to say. But that girl over there, Leo said, pointing directly at Julianne, who was still hunched over her phone, doctoring his pictures. She's not average at all. She's had a lot to say. You should have her come up. All right, then. Let's have this young lady come up and introduce herself. Huh. Julianne looked up, her expression a perfect mirror of Leo's a minute earlier. Leo walked past her on his way back to his seat. Your turn, Julianne, he said with a smirk. Now, it was his turn to stifle a laugh. Don't call me Julianne like that, she hissed, glaring at him as she stood up and walked to the front. Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne Hale. It's great to... Her introduction was also 3 sentences long. Aside from her name, it was a word-for-word copy of Leo's. That's it, sir. You can sit down, mister, Chase said, a hint of amused resignation in his voice. He scanned the room again. Anyone else want to volunteer? If not, I'll start calling names from the roster. Silence. No one was ever going to volunteer for public speaking. So, mister, Chase picked up his list and began calling students up one by one. With the precedent set by Leo and Julianne, the following introductions were all variations of the same bland template. Then, it was Damian Sterling's turn, and things finally got interesting. Damian Sterling. The introduction sparked a wave of frantic whispers and shrieks from the girls in the audience. 2 words. Simple, direct. He said them and walked off the stage without a flicker of hesitation. Just that cool. Just that handsome. As he descended the steps, Leo could practically feel the alpha aura radiating off him. This was the male lead from his book, all right. When he was on, he was a genuine stud. Well, Leo was still mentally applauding him when in the next second, Damian's left foot caught his right, and he tumbled to the ground. Leo facepalmed, a black cloud forming over his head. How's he trip on a flat floor? This is so embarrassing. I don't remember writing this scene. Serafina, who had just stood up to take her turn, saw Damian fall and immediately rushed forward, extending a hand. Thanks. Damian flashed a small smile, taking her hand and allowing her to help him up. In that moment, it was as if a spotlight had descended upon them. Every student in the classroom, including Mr. Chase, was captivated by the scene. Julian watched, sighing dreamily. That's so romantic. I have to write that into my book. Leo scoffed. That's romantic? Yes. Julian nodded. Don't you think so? Not at all, Leo countered. It's way more romantic when the heroine falls and the hero appears out of nowhere to catch her, sweeping her into his arms in front of the whole class. That's a classic for a reason. That trope is ancient, Julianne said, shaking her head. Nobody wants to see the guy saving the girl anymore. Isn't the girl saving the guy better? A kind, gentle heroine reaching out to help the hero in front of everyone. That's incredibly romantic. Leo decided not to argue. Fine, fine. You win. She let out a small, proud sniff. Unlike Damian's cool, brief introduction, Serafina's was long and articulate. Her voice was gentle and her words were perfectly enunciated, clearly rehearsed. Unsurprisingly, when she finished, the classroom erupted in enthusiastic applause. After everyone had introduced themselves, it was time to elect class officers. College class governments had a ton of positions, but only a few actually mattered. Class president and maybe the dorm life reps. The rest, vice president, academic chair, social chair, were mostly just resume padding. Why was VP a fluff position? Because the president did all the work. In the original story, no one ran for president. Serafina, having already impressed everyone during the orientation talent show, and again with her introduction, had caught the advisor's eye and was simply appointed to the position. Is there anyone who'd like to run for class president? Mr. Chase asked again. The room remained silent. His gaze drifted across the students and landed on Leo. Leo felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He sensed something was about to go wrong, and it did. Actually, Mr. Chase said, I already have 2 excellent candidates in mind. The first is Serafina Rose, who gave a wonderful introduction, and the other is Leo Miller. Oh, come on. Not me again. The plot is already a train wreck. Just leave me out of it. Leo screamed internally. Mr. Chase continued, I don't know if you all remember, but Leo gave a fantastic performance of Iris during the orientation talent show. And today, he was brave enough to be the first one on stage. So, who would you all prefer as our class president? The question ignited a firestorm of discussion in the classroom. Leo wanted to protest, but it was too late. In the end, by a margin of 10 votes, Leo Miller was elected class president over Serafina Rose. Seeing the result, Leo immediately shot to his feet. I'm really not qualified for this. You shouldn't just vote for me on a whim. Serafina is helpful, kind, and organized. She should be president. Don't be so modest, Leo, mister, Chase said with a smile. This was the students' decision. They trust you, and I'm confident you can handle the responsibility. No, sir, I really... Leo tried to argue, but mister. Chase waved a dismissive hand. That's enough. It's settled. You're our class president. As he watched Mr. Chase write his name on the board next to president, Leo felt an overwhelming urge to cry. Beside him, Julianne was covering her mouth, her eyes dancing with amusement. President Miller, she whispered, I'll be counting on your leadership. Leo glared at her. Get lost. With Leo as president, the vice presidency naturally went to Serafina. She didn't seem to mind. She hadn't wanted to run in the first place. She even turned to congratulate Leo. With the officers elected, the meeting was over. It was now lunchtime. Damian was already leading Serafina toward the door. Noticing Leo wasn't following, Serafina asked Damian, Is it just the two of us? Yeah. Why? Damian tilted his head, confused. Serafina frowned. Aren't you going to ask Leo? Damian pouted. Why would I ask him? He's got Julianne to keep him company. His words and pout were immediately misinterpreted by Serafina. I see, she thought. He must be jealous that the guy he likes is spending so much time with another girl. Maybe I should tell Julianne to give Leo some space. If Damian had any idea what was going through her mind, he probably would have coughed up blood. To be on a date with the girl you liked, only to have her assume you were gay. It was enough to make any man furious. Julianne, having packed her bag, walked to the classroom door and looked back at Leo. Come on, let's get some food. Wait, I have something for you, Leo said, pulling a notebook from his bag. Julianne took it. What's this? Leo scratched his head, feigning nonchalance. Oh, that? I was bored last night, browsing online, and found some writing advice from professional authors. Just scribbled some of it down. Had nowhere to put it, so I figured you could take it off my hands. Like trash disposal. Julianne looked from the notebook to Leo's face, a sly smile playing on her lips. So, you're telling me that out of sheer boredom, you casually copied 5 full pages of writing advice, and now you're casually giving it to me like it's trash? Yeah, exactly. Just a casual thing. Don't read too much into it. Really? Julianne clearly didn't buy it. She raised an eyebrow. But last night when we were texting, didn't you say you were watching thirst trap videos? Leo sputtered. Right. I was multitasking. Watching videos and copying notes. What's wrong with that? Julianne asked one last time. So you're absolutely sure this wasn't specifically for me? Absolutely not, Leo declared, a little too forcefully. Seeing his earnest, flustered expression, Julianne broke into a laugh. You dork. Leo pointed at her, indignant. You have no shame. I go to all this trouble to give you notes, and you don't thank me, you just call me a dork? Julianne leaned against the doorframe, rising onto her tiptoes to get closer to his face. So, you admit you went to all this trouble for me? The sudden proximity startled Leo. He pressed himself back against the wall, his voice tight with nerves. You heard me wrong. And just like that, the innocent young man Leo found himself pinned against the classroom door by the evil supporting female character, Julianne. Her foxy eyes, full of emotion, locked onto his. They stared at each other for a few seconds before a cunning smile spread across her face. Leo Miller, she said softly, you're a terrible liar. Huh, you're lying because... You're blushing. WH, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Leo's face was beet red. He ducked under her arm, which was still braced against the doorframe, and hurried down the hall. I'm starving. Let's go. The cafeteria is going to be packed if we're late. Hey, wait up. Explain yourself. Why are you running away? Julianne called out, jogging to catch up. What are you so guilty about? If you're not guilty, why are you blushing? I... Leo stammered, his face still flushed. He couldn't bring himself to look at her. I'm a pure, innocent guy. You got that close to me. It's perfectly normal for me to blush a little, right? What are you laughing at? Leo demanded. Julianne looked at him, amused. You a pure, innocent guy? How can you say that with a straight face? I'm this old, and I've never even kissed a girl. How am I not a pure, innocent guy? The words tumbled out of him, filled with a righteous indignation that was almost heartbreaking. Hearing this, a flicker of something unreadable crossed Julianne's eyes, but she quickly masked it with a calm expression. I don't believe you. She stared him down. You rich kids are all wild. I refuse to believe you've been single your whole life. I'm not. Leo almost blurted out that he hadn't been born a rich kid, but he caught himself just in time. revealing that would blow his cover completely. He quickly changed tack. I'm not that kind of person. Don't paint all of us with the same brush. Not every rich kid is a degenerate, you know. Julianne blinked, a smile playing on her lips. So, you're saying you're different from the typical rich kid? Can't you tell? Leo finished, raising his eyebrows confidently. Oh, I can tell, Julianne said, covering her mouth to stifle a laugh. You're way dumber than the typical rich kid. Ta! Hey, you dare call me dumb? Leo pointed at his own face, incredulous. Fine, fine. Seeing as you went to the trouble of copying those notes for me, I won't call you dumb. Julianne patted his shoulder. Thanks, Leo. Finally, some gratitude, he said, planting his hands on his hips. But is that it? Just a verbal thank you. Julianne glanced at the notebook in her hand and thought for a moment. Well, how about I treat you to McDonald's? Leo raised an eyebrow. Can you even afford it? Treating me to McDonald's? You don't have to worry about that. Julianne stuffed the notebook into her bag. Let's go. My treat. All right. The on-campus McDonald's was located on the main commercial strip between the dining halls and the residential area, a place they call the University Concourse. As the top private university in this fictional world, Ethelbert Royal Academy naturally had more than just a dozen cafeterias. It had its own street of snack shops and restaurants. And beyond the food, the concourse also housed other stores, including a shopping center with luxury brand boutiques. Here, if you had the money, you could buy practically anything. Leo had written Ethelbert to be this ridiculously upscale to highlight the school's prestige and, by extension, the male lead's incredible status. It was also a way to compensate for the distinct lack of good food on his own campus back at USC. On the way to the concourse, Julianne was scrolling through her phone. Weird, she said. Why isn't there a KFC on campus? Normally, where there was a McDonald's, a KFC was sure to follow. But strangely, KFC had no presence on the concourse. Maybe. They couldn't agree on the rent with the university, Leo said, rubbing his nose, trying to sound casual. In truth, it was his fault. One day while writing, he'd ordered delivery and they'd forgotten his soda. In a fit of petty rage, he had written KFC out of the book entirely. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision he hadn't thought twice about. Really? Julianne nodded. KFC's egg tarts and original recipe chicken are so good, and the prices are decent on their big promo days. Leo let out a dry laugh. This girl, he thought, her tastes are so similar to mine. Back when Leo first started working, he used to treat himself to KFC every payday. Later, as a novelist, his royalties were barely enough to cover groceries, so KFC became a rare luxury, which was why, when he had finally splurged on a delivery with a hefty fee, the missing soda had felt like a personal attack. How could he not be mad? They arrived at McDonald's. The first floor was packed, so they went upstairs and found a table in the corner. What do you want? Pick whatever, Julianne said, handing her phone to Leo. Her phone was protected by a cute cat case, but the device itself was old. The screen's colors were washed out, and a long crack snaked from the top left corner to the bottom right. Sensing his gaze, Julianne explained, I dropped it a while ago during a fight with my dad. Leo smiled faintly. Your phone is broken, and you're still treating me to a meal? It's an old phone anyway. It's on its last legs, no point in fixing it. She smiled back. I'll get a new one when my writing starts paying off. Okay, Leo said after a few seconds of silence. In those few seconds, he was thinking, you have no idea how hard it is to make money from writing. Of course, Julianne knew. Her comment was mostly to reassure Leo and herself. Why reassure him? Because he had helped her so much, and she genuinely wanted to treat him to a nice meal without him feeling guilty about her beat-up phone. Julianne waved a hand magnanimously. Order whatever you want. Don't worry about saving me money. Leo chose a combo meal for two that cost about $40. When she saw it, she said, Is that all you're getting? I'll let you off easy this time, Leo said with a grin. When you actually start making real money from your writing, I'll be sure to bleed you dry. It's a deal. I'll treat you to something better then, Julianne said as she placed the order on her phone. The phone was definitely old. It lagged as she navigated the app, taking forever to process the order. He guessed she probably only used it for texting. If he remembered correctly, Julianne, as a work-study student, didn't own a computer. Does she really write her novels on this piece of junk? How can I get her a laptop without making it weird? He wondered, stroking his chin. What he should have been wondering was how to get Charles to unfreeze his bank account sooner. Meanwhile, Charles Miller had just learned from his secretary that his son, Leo, had been elected class president, and he couldn't have been happier. After ordering, while they waited for their food, Julianne was about to chat with Leo about writing, but his attention was suddenly captured by something else. Curious, she followed his gaze. Across the room, At a table by the floor-to-ceiling window sat two familiar faces, Damian Sterling and Serafina Rose. Julianne already knew from Serafina that Damian was treating her to a meal. She had assumed a big shot like him would take her to a fancy steakhouse or something. But here they were, having lunch at McDonald's. It was unexpected. Leo was just as surprised. He thought he was seeing things. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. It was definitely them. But Damian was supposed to be taking Serafina to a fine dining restaurant, not here. Leo couldn't wrap his head around it. The pair across the room were chatting and laughing, completely oblivious to being watched. Damian took a bite of a hot, crispy piece of fried chicken. The crunchy skin, the tender meat. It was nothing special, just ordinary. Not even as good as instant ramen. But he had never had the chance to try it before, and so his expectations had been sky high. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. It wasn't as delicious as he'd imagined, but it wasn't bad either. It was a completely new experience. Serafina was less analytical. She held her burger delicately, eating with a refined grace. As the heroine of the story, she possessed a magical ability. No matter what she ate, she never made a mess. The sauces in her burger all behaved, landing neatly in her mouth instead of smearing across her lips. It made sense. She was the female lead. Everything she did had to be perfect, including eating. Why did you suddenly decide to bring me to McDonald's? Serafina finally couldn't help but ask. I just wanted to try it, Damian said, looking at the piece of chicken in his hand. He thought for a moment. When I was a kid, riding in the car, we'd pass by fast food places. I'd see other kids inside with their parents, eating burgers and fries, drinking soda, with their moms and dads. I was always a little envious. His words struck a chord with Serafina. She smiled softly. So the great Damian Sterling has his troubles, too. Damian laughed. Yeah, I guess even a young master in the back of a luxury car has his own problems. Let me interview you, then. Serafina held her cup of soda up to his mouth, like a microphone. Now that your dream has come true, and you've had your fried chicken and burger, how do you feel? Damian considered it. It's nothing special. Not as good as I thought it would be, actually. Serafina looked him in the eye. Is it possible that what you were really envious of wasn't the chicken and burgers in the other kids' hands? Her question stopped him cold. She was right. He'd grown up with every material comfort imaginable. Why would he envy someone else's fast food? He was envious of them having their parents with them. Serafina added, Did you always eat alone at home? Yeah, Damian nodded. My parents are always busy with the company. I hardly ever see them at home. We rarely eat together, even on holidays. Serafina's lips parted. She wanted to say, Your childhood sounds so much like mine. My parents are always busy too. They never paid any attention to me. They probably don't even see me as their daughter. If they did, they wouldn't be trying to marry me off to a man I've never met for a business deal. But she held her tongue. She was still hiding her identity. Such things had to remain buried. If she knew the man sitting across from her was her intended fiancé, who knows how she would react? Damian offered a polite smile. Sorry, I shouldn't be talking about such downers. I'm ruining the mood. It's okay. I'm honored to be your audience. Serafina gave him a gentle smile and said in a teasing tone, If you ever need someone to eat with in the future, you can always call me. Haha, that would be too much trouble for you. Damian lowered his head, suddenly shy. It's fine. I can always eat with Leo. Hearing his reply, Serafina's mood soured. She didn't know what to say. So it's true, she thought. Leo is the one he really loves. He's on a date with me, and he's still thinking about him. Poor Damian. It was just a polite deflection. Who could have guessed Serafina's mind would immediately jump to shipping them? What are they talking about? Leo squinted, his expression serious, as he stared at the laughing pair by the window. Julianne shook her head. I don't know. Want me to go over and ask for you? Don't you dare. Leo immediately stopped her. They're on a date, having a great time. You can't just go over there and interrupt. Oomph. Julianne snorted, looking at him sideways. You've only known Damian for a little while. Why are you so invested in his business? Always trying to help him get with Serafina? Wah, called out. Leo quickly looked away. Am I? Yes, you are. Julianne narrowed her eyes, studying his reaction. Leo scratched his head, fumbling for an explanation. I guess it's just a guy thing. Our friendship. The moment I met him during orientation, I knew we'd be good friends. It's pure. You girls probably wouldn't understand. Julianne rolled her eyes at his excuse. Whatever you say, you're always right, aren't you? Look, our food's ready. Let's go get it, Leo said, quickly changing the subject and pulling Julianne downstairs. When they got their tray, a table had opened up on the first floor. Leo went back upstairs to grab their bags. With familiar faces on the second floor, neither of them felt like going back up. It was strange. They were completely innocent, but they were still afraid of being misunderstood by their acquaintances. It just felt like it would be a hassle to explain. Leo carried the tray, Julianne held 2 ice-cold sodas, and they sat down at a window table of their own. Watching Leo across from her, gnawing on a chicken leg while reading a novel on his phone, Julianne held her McSpicy chicken sandwich and felt a strange, unnameable sense of satisfaction. When was the last time she'd eaten fast food? She couldn't remember. It had been a very, very long time. "What are you smiling about?" Leo asked, noticing Julianne's secret grin. "Nothing," she said, shaking her head. After a sip of her icy soda, she asked, "Why do you like chicken drumsticks so much?" "Do I?" Leo mumbled around a mouthful of chicken. "How can you tell?" Julianne pointed at the drumstick in his hand. "Every time we go to the cafeteria, you get a drumstick. We order this whole McDonald's combo, and the first thing you grab is the drumstick. And you still deny it." Seeing how closely she'd observed him, Leo gave a faint smile. "Now that you mention it, I guess you're right." Julianne repeated her question. "So, why do you love them so much?" "I just like them." "Do you need a reason to like chicken?" Leo sucked the last piece of meat off the bone, leaving it so clean a dog would weep. "You always need a reason for liking something, don't you?" she pressed. Leo shot back. "Do you like burgers?" "I do," Julianne nodded. "Then why do you like burgers?" His question made her pause. Leo thought he had her. He grinned. "See? You know it yourself. You don't need a reason to like something." "Of course I have a reason for liking burgers." Julianne immediately retorted. "And that is?" Leo asked. Holding her McSpicy, Julianne seemed to drift into a memory. "The first time I ever had a burger was one night in 5th grade. She continued, "I told you before, I was a bad student when I was little. It took a lot of hard work to catch up. For the 5th grade midterms, I got first place in my class. The day the results came out, I ran home with my report card, so excited. But my parents were fighting. They couldn't have cared less about my grades. Later, my grandma found me crying in my room. She saw my report card, saw I was number 1, and she secretly took me out of the house. She asked me what I wanted to eat. I remember my classmates bragging, if I get good grades, my parents take me for burgers. So I told my grandma I wanted a burger. The poor woman had no idea what that was, so she just took me around, asking people, until we found this little no-name fast food joint. $10 for 3 burgers. I ate 2. I was so happy that night. I couldn't finish the last one, so I offered it to my grandma, but she wouldn't eat it. The next morning, she heated it up and brought it to my school for breakfast. My grandma saw how much I loved it, so she told me that every time I got first place on a test, she'd take me out for burgers. After that, my biggest motivation in school was getting a good report card so I could cash it in for a burger with my grandma. Then, she passed away. My mom took me a few times after that, but once I got to high school, it stopped. The summer after I graduated high school, I worked a temp job in a factory. After I got paid, I went to a real KFC for the first time. It was my first brand name burger. To be honest, it wasn't much different from the ones at the little knockoff place. Just 2 buns with a meat patty. The ones at the cheap place were $10 for 3. At KFC or McDonald's, that's barely enough for a soda. Sometimes when I see people online joking about the value menu or calling it the diarrhea special, I feel a lot of things. A burger that cost a few bucks was something my grandma never even let herself eat before she died. Listening to Julianne's earnest story, a wave of unbearable guilt washed over Leo. With a single sentence in his book, he had taken her beloved grandmother away from her. He suddenly wanted to slap himself. Why couldn't he have just written a simple romance? Why did he have to pad it out with so much useless, painful backstory? When Julianne finished, she noticed Leo's silence and looked up at him. Seeing his pained expression, she asked, "Why do you look even sadder than I do?" "Huh? Oh." Leo snapped back to reality. He avoided her gaze and mumbled, "Your story just got to me." Julianne shook her head with a self-deprecating smile. "You grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. How could a rich kid like you ever understand the tragic childhood of a poor girl like me?" Who says I can't understand?" Leo bristled at her words. "I'll have you know, this young master is deeply sensitive and full of empathy. Is it so wrong for me to be moved by your story?" Fine, Julianne nodded. "So, are you going to tell me why you like chicken drumsticks?" Leo glanced at the bone on the table. "You really want to know? Spill it." "Because—" Leo paused, then broke into a grin. "They taste good. You're just messing with me." Julianne's face fell into a pout. "I just told you my whole life story about burgers, and that's how you answer?" "I'm not. I like chicken because it's delicious. There's no other reason." "Go to hell," Julianne grumbled, burying her head in her burger. In her mind, she had unilaterally decided to never speak to this annoying jerk again. Wait, never speak to him again? That's probably not possible. I still owe him money. Okay, 1 month. I'll ignore him for 1 month. No, he's the class president now. Ignoring him for a month is also impossible. Fine, 1 week, but his money is still loaded on my meal card. If I ignore him for a week, he might starve to death. Okay, fine. Out of the kindness of my heart, I will ignore him for the rest of the afternoon. Are you mad? Just as Julianne was calculating the appropriate shunning period, Leo suddenly stood up and leaned over the table to look at her from the side. Ah! The sudden movement startled her out of her thoughts. Her small shriek drew the attention of everyone in the restaurant. Embarrassed, Julianne ducked her head. She gave him a light shove. What is wrong with you? You scare me to death. Leo took a long slurp of his soda. You weren't saying anything. I thought you were mad at me. Julianne gritted her teeth. I am mad. I don't believe you, Leo said with a death wish smile. Show me your angry face. Staring at his incredibly punchable face, Julianne's brow twitched. She knew she couldn't just let it go, but getting physical didn't fit her delicate image. So, her eyes landed on the cup of soda in Leo's hand. What are you doing? Leo sensed a flicker of danger. The moment he asked, Julianne's hand shot out, grabbed his paper cup, and squeezed. PSSH fizz, soda exploded all over Leo's face. What the? Ah! Seeing Leo's drenched, sputtering face, Julianne burst into delighted laughter. This profound experience taught Leo a valuable lesson. Never, ever mess with a girl just for the fun of it. Lesson learned. But Leo would absolutely do it again. After finishing their lunch at McDonald's, Leo and Julianne went their separate ways back to the dorms. As they left, Damian and Serafina were still on the second floor by the window, slowly eating their burgers. Leo had no idea what they were talking about, but they both looked incredibly happy. He couldn't be bothered to care anymore. As long as the main couple's relationship wasn't derailing completely, he was determined to stay out of it. He'd only intervene if things went too far off the rails. Full and content, Leo was looking forward to a nice afternoon nap. But he had barely drifted off when a knock came at his door. Miller. Hey, Miller, open up. What? Leo stumbled out of his room, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Oh, you were asleep, Damian said, looking slightly apologetic. If I'd known, I wouldn't have bothered you. Well, you already woke me up, so what's the point of saying that now? Leo shot him a glare. What's so urgent? Nothing urgent. I just wanted to thank you. Damian grinned. That idea you gave me last night was brilliant. I took Serafina to McDonald's today, and she seemed really happy. We talked for a long time. Leo, who had already seen them there, couldn't be bothered to play along. I told you to take her to a nice restaurant, and you took her to fast food. Do you have a screw loose? What were you thinking? How dare you talk to me like that? Damian's brow furrowed, his expression shifting like an NPC whose dialogue tree had just been triggered. You're the first man who has ever dared to insult me. You've successfully caught my foot. Shut up. Leo's interruption cut Damian's dramatic line short, leaving him momentarily stunned. Leo began to lecture him. You were treating her. A girl as polite and well-mannered as Serafina is not going to say she doesn't like McDonald's, is she? So, is that what happened? Damian's eyes went wide with shock. You thought my ass. Leo cut him off again. Listen to me. It's fine if you want to try new things, but a fast food joint is not the place for a date. Next time you ask her out, take her to a real restaurant. And get some flowers. Roses. A ridiculous amount of them. Make it romantic, bro. Got it? Oh. Damian nodded, only half understanding. Miller, you seem to know a lot about this stuff. You must go on a lot of dates, huh? The question left Leo speechless. Him, a lifelong single guy who'd never even kissed a girl, being praised for his dating expertise? He pointed at his own face, not sure whether to laugh or cry. But he still managed to say, with a blush of false pride, of course. My dad was a legend in his day. They called him the Ryan Reynolds of USC. You think the apple falls far from the tree? Impressive. Damian gave him a thumbs up. Anything else? Nope, that's it. You can go back to sleep. Leo went back to his room, but just as he was closing his eyes, his phone rang. It was his advisor, Mr. Chase. He needed Leo to bring a couple of people to the university logistics department at 1:30 p.m. to pick up some leftover textbooks. Leo glanced at the time. It was already 1 o'clock. So much for his nap. He messaged Serafina, his vice president, asking her to come along. He figured he'd drag Damian along too. The guy was tall and built, perfect for manual labor. At first, Damian wasn't thrilled about hauling books, but as soon as he heard Serafina would be there, he was scrambling for his shoes. Just like that, the great Damian Sterling was being bossed around by Leo like a golden retriever. In the original plot, It was also Damian who had accompanied the newly elected President Serafina. While moving books, he'd accidentally revealed his 8-pack abs, leaving her a little flustered. A guy with a stomach condition who spends all his time in board meetings has an 8-pack? Leo suddenly thought. That plot point makes no sense. Serafina brought her own backup, Julianne. The four of them went to the textbook warehouse in the logistics building. The girls, being more detail-oriented, were in charge of counting the books, while the guys loaded them onto a hand truck. Their class was large for a university program, with 41 students. The hand truck was soon piled high with books. They wheeled the cart to the classroom for their afternoon lecture. Students were trickling in. Too lazy to distribute the books himself, Leo announced that each student should come up and grab their own set as they entered. A girl approached him. President, is it 7 books total? No, it's 8, Leo said, glancing at the stack in her hands. You're missing the intro textbook. Oops, I'm so clumsy. I can't believe I forgot that. The girl went back to the pile, grabbed the missing book, and then looked at Leo with admiration. Thank you, Leo. You're so amazing. Leo offered a polite smile. No problem. After the books were gone, Leo went to sit next to Damian. Julianne and Serafina took the seats behind them. As usual, Leo was writing his name on the cover of his book when he heard a saccharine, mocking voice from behind him. Oh, thank you, Leo. You're so amazing. Question mark. Leo turned to look at Julianne, but she immediately whipped her head away, refusing to meet his eyes. What's with her now? I haven't done anything to annoy her this afternoon. Leo scratched his head, completely baffled. After class, Leo asked Julianne to get dinner, but she replied with a frosty tone, Oh, I wouldn't dare eat with our great and powerful class president. Here's your meal card. You can go by yourself. Leo ran his hands through his hair, trying desperately to figure out why she was angry with him again. Just then, the girl who had forgotten a book earlier walked up to him, looking shy. Leo, could I treat you to dinner? Before Leo could even refuse, Julianne shot up from her seat, grabbed his hand, and said to the girl, Sorry, Stacy, the president already has plans with me. Maybe next time. And with that, Julianne dragged a completely bewildered Leo out of the classroom. He was being pulled along by the hand, with no idea what had just happened. Julianne's hand was cool and delicate, her palm as smooth as jade, but Leo could clearly feel the calluses on her palm, between her index and ring fingers. Why would a girl have calluses on her hands? From cooking at home? From carrying heavy things with no one to help? From working to earn money? After they were a good distance from the classroom, Julianne finally let go of his hand. Leo looked at his hand where she had held it, then back at her. That girl, just now. That's Stacy's son from my dorm, Julianne said. Stacy's son and Zoe Zhang. Those were the other 2 girls in the 4-person dorm with Julianne and Serafina. Leo had barely given them any screen time in his book, just a passing mention of their names. Are you not on good terms with your other 2 roommates? Leo asked. It's not that we're not on good terms, Julianne said, thinking it over. In our dorm, Stacy and the other girl, Zoe Zhang, come from wealthy families, so they stick together. I get along better with Serafina, maybe because our family backgrounds are more similar. Since Serafina was hiding her identity, Julianne mistakenly assumed they were in the same financial boat. Leo couldn't help but chuckle. 4 people in one dorm, already split into 2 cliques. The social dynamics of a girl's dorm are so complicated. Julianne shrugged. At least we don't have a dozen different group chats for one dorm room. Leo managed a dry laugh. Julianne bit her lip. If Stacy tries to make a move on you, you're not allowed to say yes. The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. Leo was handsome and rich. It was normal for girls to chase him. She had no right to be so controlling. It made her sound incredibly nosy. Okay, got it, Leo replied simply. His easy agreement surprised her. She glanced at him. Why is he suddenly so obedient? Did he agree so quickly because he already liked someone else? Leo wasn't thinking about any of that. He wasn't even interested in his own story's universally adored heroine. So why would he be interested in a minor side character with barely any lines? They had dinner together in the cafeteria. It was only Wednesday. He still had 4 more days of being a poor young master to get through. Leo sighed internally. It's easy to go from rags to riches, but so much harder to go from riches to rags. After several days of spending money like water, suddenly having his funds frozen was a difficult adjustment. Just as he was thinking this, he got a message from Mr. Chase, asking him to stop by his office after dinner. Probably more busy work. Being class president was nothing but a string of tedious tasks. He and Julianne parted ways at the cafeteria entrance. Walking toward the administrative building, Leo felt a growing sense of unease. He'd stumbled into his own book, failed at being a rich playboy, messed up the plot, and somehow ended up as class president with a mountain of chores. Is this right? This isn't right at all. I'm the freaking heir to Ethelberg Royal Academy, and I'm running errands for a low-level advisor? What kind of nonsense is this? Let someone else be the damn president. I quit. The realization was liberating. His pace quickened as he marched toward Zhao Chase's office. He threw the door open. Listen, Chase, I have something to tell you. This stupid class president job, I don't want it, Dad. Leo's declaration froze mid-sentence. Standing in the office, he saw his father, Charles Miller. The other advisors were swarming around him, one offering a cigarette, another pouring tea, a third fanning him. Charles was lounging in an armchair like an emperor. Seeing Leo, Charles immediately pushed everyone aside and rushed over to give him a huge hug. Son, Leo awkwardly patted his back. Dad, what are you doing here? I heard you were elected class president. I was so happy, I had to come see you. Charles beamed, looking at his son's face. That's my boy, the best wherever he goes. I've decided. I'm unfreezing your accounts ahead of schedule. And as a reward, I'm adding 2 more zeros to your allowance. Leo's arms tightened around his father. Dad, I love you. I love you so much, Dad. Cough, cough. Charles patted Leo's back. Easy there. You're squeezing the life out of me. Leo immediately let go, reining in his excitement. Charles looked at him thoughtfully. You were saying something when you came in, weren't you? No. I didn't say anything. Leo laughed nervously. He had just accidentally stumbled into his father's good graces by becoming president. The last thing he wanted was to ruin it by saying he was quitting. Charles's secretary chose that exact moment to chime in. Sir, I believe the young master was saying he no longer wishes to be class president. Charles's brow furrowed. Leo frantically waved his hands. No, you misheard. What I said was if I don't do it, who will? This job has to be done by me. Good. That's the spirit. Charles clapped Leo's shoulder. I'm proud of you, son. You manage this class well now, and after you graduate, I'll hand the company over to you. Yes, Dad, Leo said with a look of utmost seriousness. I won't let you down. All right, then. Charles dropped his hand. I won't disturb you any longer. I'm heading back. Leo nodded like a bobblehead. Okay, Dad. Drive safe. Young master, your car. The secretary walked over and respectfully handed Leo the keys to his personal vehicle. Right, thanks. Leo nodded coolly and took the keys. After Charles and his secretary left, Leo plopped down into the very armchair his father had just vacated. He was finally back on top. The same advisors who had been fawning over Charles immediately started trying to curry favor with him. Leo looked at Zhao Chase and called out, Hey, Chase. Yes, Mr. Miller. Chase scurried over, bowing respectfully. Is there anything else I can do for you? Leo took a sip of tea. Nothing major. Since you know who I am, you should also know that I'm a very busy person. So? Chase nodded vigorously. Understood. There's not much for a class president to do anyway. Don't you worry, Mr. Miller. Your duties as president will not be a burden on you at all. Good. Leo was very satisfied with Chase's quick uptake. He could be president in name only, do no work, and keep his old man happy. It was a win-win. He set down his teacup, grabbed his car keys, and left the office. Leo's personal ride, a Koenigsegg, was parked on the street just outside the administration building. A crowd had already gathered around it. Ethelberg was a school for the elite, so million-dollar cars were a common sight. But cars in the tens of millions were still rare. There were levels to wealth. Most rich people put their money back into making more money. Only families like the Sterlings and the Millers, with more money than they could ever spend, will buy their kids multi-million-dollar toys. Damian Sterling was the male lead of Leo's book, so the Sterling family was, without a doubt, the wealthiest family in his fictional world. Below them were the 4 great families of Ethelberg City, with the Rose family being one of them. And below them were a smattering of lesser families Leo had created simply to emphasize the hero's overwhelming status. As for the Miller family, Leo had no idea where they ranked. They hadn't been part of his original outline. Or maybe, to put another way, Ethelberg Royal Academy itself was a bug in the system, a place so prestigious that even the most powerful male lead in the story had to obediently attend. That was an anomaly, wasn't it? Completely overpowered. Lost in thought, Leo walked toward the crowd. Excuse me, could you all make some room? The onlookers turned to look at him. One guy, holding his girlfriend's hand, asked, Bro, is this your car? It's a lease, Leo deadpanned. Sick, the guy said, giving him a thumbs up. Thanks, Leo nodded with a smile. How much is this thing worth? I don't know. A few tens of millions, I guess, Leo said nonchalantly. He pulled out the key fob, unlocked the doors, and slid into the driver's seat. The guy's girlfriend's eyes lit up. She sidled closer. Hey, handsome, can I get in and take a picture? Leo frowned at her. Isn't that a little inappropriate? It's fine. I don't really know him, she said, pushing away the guy she was with and reaching for the car door. But Leo had locked it, and she couldn't open it. The boyfriend immediately confronted her. What's that supposed to mean? Didn't you say you'd be my girlfriend? The girl retorted defiantly. Who said I was with you? But you took my gifts. You said you would be with me, he said, bewildered. I told you yesterday. I need some time to prepare, she shot back. You can't just jump into a relationship. You have to give me a buffer period, right? Then why did you just say you don't know me? He demanded. Why were you in such a hurry to distance yourself? Until we're officially together in a real sense, we're not that close. There's nothing wrong with what I said. Who told you that accepting your gifts means? Vroom. Before the girl could finish her sentence, Leo, who had grown tired of the drama, stomped on the gas in neutral. The thunderous roar of the engine made her jump. Leo looked at the guy. Dude, she just said all that, and you're still simping? Break up with her. The next one will be better, right? Thanks, man, for helping me see her for who she really is, the guy said, grateful. No problem, Leo said, then peeled out, leaving the scene behind. That guy had reminded Leo of a roommate from his university days. The dude was a good guy, so broke he could barely afford to eat, yet he'd still lend money to Leo when he was struggling. Unfortunately, he fell for a gold digger. On a monthly allowance of just over $1,000, he scrimped and saved to buy her designer bags, shoes, and the latest phone, while he worked back-breaking day labor jobs, surviving on bread and water. He gave her every penny he earned. In the end, she cheated on him with some bald guy who drove Mercedes. The roommate was so devastated he nearly hanged himself. It took Leo and their other two roommates a whole night to talk him down. But the guy was still an idiot for being a simp. Simps never win, bros. Don't be like him. Leo hadn't driven far from the admin building when he spotted a familiar figure in the distance, Julianne, walking out of the library with a stack of books. He recognized her graceful silhouette instantly. He slowed the car, steering in her direction. Just as he was about to reach her, two figures appeared at his car's side. Hey, President Leo, it really is you. President, your car is so cool. Stacy? Zoe. Leo frowned when he recognized them. He didn't stop, just let the car continue to crawl forward. Stacy, a wide smile plastered on her face, kept pace with the car. Wow, President, you remember our names. What an honor. Beside her, Zoe struck a pose. President, can we get a ride? Leo smiled faintly. Sorry, this car is a piece of junk. Only has 2 seats, not enough for 3. Stacy immediately piped up. Then you can take me. Why you? Zoe shot back, instantly annoyed. I was the one who asked for a ride first. If he's taking anyone, it should be me. Stacy wasn't having it. Don't you have a crush on Damian Sterling? Why are you trying to steal the president from me? Even if I don't, it's not like the president would ever like you. You two can fight it out. I'm leaving, Leo said, tired of their bickering. He hit the gas and sped away, leaving them in his dust. He caught up to Julianne, who was already much farther down the road. Leo waved at her. Hey, beautiful. Want to go for a spin? Julianne recognized his car, so she wasn't particularly surprised. She just asked, why are you driving this again? I thought you said you were out of gas money. Leo raised an eyebrow. My dad unfroze my accounts. I'm a rich man again. That explains it, Julianne said jokingly. The sun is out, the rain has stopped, and you think you're hot stuff again, huh? For some reason, hearing that Leo's funds were restored made Julianne's heart sink. For the past 3 days, as they walked to class together, went to the cafeteria together, and ate simple fast food together, she had been under the illusion that Leo was just an ordinary guy. But in that moment, the illusion shattered. She was suddenly reminded that Leo was a rich kid. The entire Ethelberg Royal Academy belonged to his family. How could he ever be ordinary like her? Leo patted the car door. Come on, get in. I'll take you for a drive. Julianne hid the disappointment in her heart and shook her head. No, thank you. The dorm is just up ahead. I can walk. It's still so early. Why go back to the dorm? Come on. I'll take you for a joyride. Leo, oblivious to her subtle mood shift, patted the door again. Get in. Really, it's fine. I have to get back and work on my novel, Julianne said, then quickened her pace, practically running toward the residential area. Question mark. Leo watched her flee as if she'd seen a ghost, a giant question mark materializing over his head. Who pissed her off now? Another meeting? Leo walked into their suite, sipping a boba tea. He saw Damian sitting bolt upright on the sofa, staring intently at his laptop, and assumed he was in a video conference. But Damian shook his head. What you said at the campus clinic really made me think. I talked to my parents, and they agreed to let me step back from company duties while I'm in school. So now, I'm going to live the life I want to live. Wow, that's great. Leo nodded, satisfied. This was the normal male lead he wanted to see, not some flat, one-dimensional CEO bot. So what are you watching on your laptop? A movie, Damian replied. And you're watching a movie sitting like you're in a boardroom? I seriously thought you were in a meeting. Leo walked behind the sofa and glanced at the screen. Oh, it's flipped. Yeah, have you seen it? Damian glanced back at him. Leo nodded. I have. I love that movie. Leo was a huge fan of comedies, especially Stephen Chow films, which he'd seen so many times he could recite them by heart. After he started writing romance, he'd sought out classic romance films for inspiration. Flipped was one of his favorites. Really? That's Serafina's favorite movie, too. She told me when we were talking. Just saying her name made Damian break into an unconscious smile. I was always so busy with work, I never had time to watch movies. But she made it sound so interesting, I had to check it out. Leo set down his boba and grinned mischievously. Ooh, calling her Serafina now, are we? Sounds like things are progressing quickly. No, don't be ridiculous, Damian quickly denied. Serafina and I are just really good friends. How good is really good? Leo asked, narrowing his eyes. Good enough to kiss and cuddle. Cough, cough, stop talking nonsense. Damian waved his hands frantically, cutting him off. We've just been texting a lot lately. Oh, Leo nodded with a knowing, sly smile. I see. Seeing Leo's smug expression, Damian's face darkened. That look on your face tells me you're not thinking anything good about me at all. You're right, Leo said with a cheerful grin. Damian was speechless. He changed the subject. Miller, I don't know why, but when I'm with Serafina, I always get this strange feeling. What kind of feeling? Leo picked up his boba and took another sip. I feel like, Damian thought for a moment. I feel like there's some kind of wall between us. Like she's intentionally keeping her distance. Do you have any ideas on how to break through it? Well, Damian's question left Leo at a loss. Even though Serafina was his creation, the plot was so tangled now that he had no idea where their relationship stood. He certainly didn't know why she would be putting up a wall. But based on her character and Damian's recent behavior, Leo came up with a decent suggestion. You two could go for a walk this weekend, maybe do some shopping. Get to know each other on a deeper level. Leo figured the wall was just Serafina's secret identity. Once Damian found out she was a high society heiress, the distance would probably disappear. A walk this weekend? Damian took note of Leo's advice. You're a genius, Miller. You must have a ton of experience with girls. Me? Experienced. He, a lifelong single guy, was being praised for his romantic expertise? Leo pointed at his own face, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Yeah, Damian nodded. What do you think is a good topic of conversation when you're out with a girl? Talk about family, hobbies, that kind of thing. Leo pointed at the movie on the laptop. Didn't you say Serafina loves Flipped? Watch it carefully, and then when you take her out, you can talk to her about it. That makes sense. Damian nodded again. Leo finished his boba and tossed the empty cup in the trash. Any other questions? Damian glanced at the empty cup, then at the car keys in Leo's hand. Did your dad unfreeze your accounts? Yep. Leo nodded. If there's nothing else, I'm heading to my room. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm going to keep watching. Damian waved him off. Thanks for the advice tonight. No problem, Leo said with a smile, walking into his room. Once inside, he had a thought. Am I a consultant for the male lead now? He'd fallen into his own book only to become a love guru for his main character, teaching him how to woo the heroine. The thought was so absurd it was almost funny. This world had definitely spiraled into something he no longer understood. Out in the living room, the multi-billionaire CEO, Damian Sterling, was curled up on the sofa, watching a movie on a small laptop, occasionally jotting down important plot points in a notebook. Leo had done the same thing once. He vaguely remembered copying down the movie's most famous line. Some of us get dipped in flat, some in satin, some in gloss. But every once in a while, you find someone who's iridescent, and when you do, nothing will ever compare. In the girls' dorm, Julianne, fresh from a shower and dressed in her pajamas, was sitting at her desk, flipping through a writing guide she'd borrowed from the library. Every so often, she'd copy a key point into a notebook. It was a notebook Leo had given her. It was thick, and he had only written on the first 5 pages, leaving plenty of space. She had carefully put away her old notebook after he had fixed it for her. Her mood seemed off. The notes she was taking were messy and rushed. Serafina was still in the bathroom. She always took long showers. Zoe was on her phone, texting someone and complaining about how long Serafina was taking. Stacy, meanwhile, slid a chair over to Julianne's desk, her face beaming with a friendly smile. Hey, Julianne, are you busy? Julianne put down her pen, closed her notebook, and turned around. Oh, hey, Stacy. What's up? Stacy sat down next to her. So, Are you and our class president really close? Julianne's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly at the question. We get along, I guess. Why? Well, Stacy hesitated. Do you like him? Instead of answering, Julianne asked, why are you suddenly asking me this? Oh, well, to be honest, I fell for him at first sight, Stacy said without a hint of shame. The very first day, when I saw Leo, I knew I liked him. Oh, really? Julianne's lips curved into a cold, internal smile. Love at first sight? More like love at first sight of his money, right? Yeah, Stacy said, grabbing Julianne's hand. Julianne, I saw how close you two seem, and I was worried you might like him too. If you do, I'll just back off. You're so beautiful. The president would definitely prefer a girl like you. I'll just keep my feelings to myself. Stacy's whole speech had one clear meaning. I like Leo. If you know what's good for you, don't compete with me. A more naive girl might have been flustered by this passive-aggressive display, but Stacy was dealing with Julianne, and she had just kicked a hornet's nest. Watching Stacy put on a show of heartbreaking sacrifice, Julianne scoffed internally. Outwardly, she put on a shocked expression, covering her mouth. Oh my gosh, Stacy, what are you saying? Me like the president? You got it all wrong. If you like him, you should go for it. I'll support you 100%. Really? Stacy's face lit up, her feigned sadness vanishing. You don't like him? Of course not. Leo and I are just good friends, Julianne said with a gentle smile. Since you like him so much, how about I help you out? For real? Stacy's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, Julianne said, crooking a finger. Come closer. I'll tell you a secret. Stacy leaned in half skeptical. Julianne whispered conspiratorially, don't let his handsome, rich, and serious exterior fool you. He's actually a total perv. Tomorrow, you should wear this. Will this really work? Stacy asked after hearing Julianne's advice, her brow furrowed in a strange expression. The president is really into that kind of girl. You just don't get it. Perverted guys have twisted minds like that. I think his tastes are pretty sick, too, Julianne said, patting Stacy's shoulder with a look of genuine concern. Stacy, take it from me. You can't handle a man like that without a few tricks up your sleeve. Maybe you should just give up. Her words were a masterclass in reverse psychology, seemingly dissuading, but actually fanning the flames. No, it's fine. It's just a low-cut top and a miniskirt. Just dressing a little sexy, Stacy said, as if steeling herself. I'm willing to do it for the man I love. Julianne beamed. And don't forget the stockings and high heels. Right. Thanks, Julianne, Stacy nodded. If I really get together with him, I'll be sure to thank you properly. Don't mention it, Julianne said sweetly. We're dorm sisters. We should help each other. Julianne noticed Zoe out of the corner of her eye, pretending to play on her phone, but clearly straining to overhear their conversation. So, she raised her voice intentionally. Stacy, a special guy like the president, is going to have a lot of girls chasing him. You'd better act fast before someone else beats you to it. Okay, I will. After her chat with Julianne, Stacy left the dorm. The moment she was gone, Zoe sidled up to Julianne. Hey, what were you and Stacy talking about? Oh, nothing, just... Julianne repeated her conversation with Stacy word for word, then covered her mouth as if she'd made a terrible mistake. Oh, look at me. I promised Stacy I wouldn't tell anyone. It's okay, Zoe said with a sly smile. Just pretend I never asked. I didn't hear a thing. I'm just going to go grab a late-night snack. With that, Zoe also left the dorm. Once they were both gone, Julianne couldn't hold it in any longer. She clapped a hand over her mouth and burst into peals of laughter. She couldn't believe how easily fooled those two gold diggers were. She had them wrapped around her little finger with just a few sentences. Serafina, finally finished with her shower, walked out to see an empty dorm, and Julianne bent over, shaking with laughter. Julianne, what's so funny? Where's Stacy and Zoe? I don't know. Maybe they went to get a snack, Julianne said, trying to stifle her giggles. Then what are you laughing at? Serafina asked. Julianne waved a hand. Nothing, I was just reading and thought of something funny. Something funny? Serafina, have you ever seen a female peacock spread its tail feathers? Serafina shook her head. Don't only the males do that. It's okay. Tomorrow, you'll get to see two of them do it. Ha. Huh. Serafina scratched her head, confused. Too pure to suspect anything. She just changed the subject. The water's going to be shut off this weekend. Are you going home? Hearing that, Julianne's laughter faded. I think so. My mom is getting out of the hospital this week, and I need to pick her up. Oh, okay. What about you? I probably can't go back. It's not convenient for me. Julianne nodded. Well, make sure you stock up on water. I will. Julianne thought for a moment, then lowered her voice. While I'm gone this weekend, if Stacy and Zoe are still here, just be careful. Those two are trouble. Serafina blinked her clear, innocent eyes. You mean, they're bad people? Julianne shook her head. Not exactly. Just be on your guard. Julianne, who had grown up in a rough neighborhood, was a good judge of character. If she wasn't around, she knew the kind-hearted Serafina could easily become a target. In the guys' dorm, Leo was tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep. He kept checking his phone to see if he had any messages. It was strange. Usually, Julianne would have started pestering him by now, but tonight there was nothing but silence. He thought back to seeing her on the road earlier, how she had run from him like he was the plague. He just couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Fine, I'll ask her to her face tomorrow, he decided, putting his phone down again. Ding, a notification sound. He thought it was Julianne and snatched his phone up. It was a friend request from a stranger. The note read, President, it's Stacy's son. Leo closed his phone, uninterested. Ding. A few seconds later, another notification. He grabbed his phone again, excited. The note read, President, it's Zoe Zhang. What is wrong with these two? Annoyed, Leo went into his settings and changed his privacy to do not allow friend requests from strangers. The next morning, Leo Miller headed to class with Damian Sterling. Right at the entrance to the building, they ran into Julianne Hale, who was carrying breakfast. Julianne waved and gave Damian a polite greeting. Morning, Damian. Morning. Damian offered a slight, tight-lipped smile in return. After acknowledging Damian, Julianne walked right past Leo as if he were invisible and started up the stairs. Leo immediately quickened his pace to catch up. What's with the cold shoulder? Julianne raised an eyebrow, glancing at him with a dismissive little huff. Morning, Mr. Miller. She'd spent the entire previous night completely unable to focus on her writing. Instead, she'd agonized over her relationship with Leo. Who was he, really? What kind of family did he come from? And who was she? How could a guy that rich, a guy from that kind of world, possibly fall for her? To put another way, what was there about a girl as painfully ordinary as her for him to even like? He was just taking pity on her. That had to be it. It was like any decent person who sees a poor, abandoned kitten on the street and can't help but offer it a little food. It was just sympathy, right? Thinking back, everything Leo had done for her was more than enough to make her fall for him. But for Leo himself, it was probably nothing. From the very beginning, the only one who had fallen was her. His kindness had simply landed on someone who desperately needed it. After a long night of rational deliberation, the fiercely logical girl had decided to maintain a strictly rational, friendly distance from Leo. It was the only way to keep her head from getting clouded again, to stop herself from making the mistake of thinking he might actually like her back. It wasn't her fault she overthought everything. Growing up starved for affection had left her with zero sense of security. She'd built her walls sky high, rejecting anyone who dared to peek inside her heart, like a wary, cunning fox. Besides, from her perspective, Leo's appearance in her life was so sudden and jarring it felt like a meticulously planned setup. She couldn't see through him, and she couldn't understand the game he was playing, yet her defenses were crumbling bit by bit. That was not a good sign. She had to stay sharp, keep her distance, and protect herself from getting hurt. Seeing how cold she was today, Leo asked, completely baffled, Seriously, what did I do to piss you off now? Julianne shook her head. You didn't do anything. Then why have you been giving me the cold shoulder since last night? He shot back. She just raised an eyebrow. Have I? I asked you to go for a drive last night. Why didn't you come? Leo asked, getting straight to the point. Men and women often approach problems from different angles, their styles worlds apart. Both of them had grown up with a deep-seated lack of security, but they developed different coping mechanisms. Julianne was cautious and reserved, while Leo had constructed a persona of confidence and generosity to hide his sensitive, fragile, true self. His parents had never taught him how to connect with people, so he often missed the details and did things that seemed bizarre or clueless. When problems arose, his first instinct was to blame himself and then figure out how to fix it. Right now was no different. He couldn't understand why Julianne was running hot and cold, and he assumed he must have screwed up again. He looked at her, pressing the issue. Did I do something to offend you? Why are you deliberately avoiding me? I already told you. I had to get back to my dorm to write, Julianne said, a slight, challenging smile playing on her lips. What's this, Mr. Miller? Coming to interrogate me first thing in the morning? No, the way she put made Leo realize he was probably overreacting. You what? Julianne stared into his eyes. Why do you care so much whether I get in your car or not? Who cares? Leo turned his head away. I was just asking, that's all. Just asking. Of course, Leo nodded firmly. Julianne's eyes dropped, and she feigned a hurt expression. Oh, and here I thought you actually cared about me. I do. Leo almost blurted out, "Of course I care about you." But he caught himself just in time. He realized she was leading him by the nose. He quickly changed the subject. "So you were busy all night. How's the novel coming along?" Seeing the words die on his lips, Julianne pressed her own into a thin line. "It's frustrating. I've got nothing." Leo frowned. "If you have writer's block, why didn't you talk to me about it?" Julianne turned away, her voice laced with a faint bitterness. "You're a busy man, Mr. Miller. It's better for an ordinary person like me not to bother you." What she meant was that their social statuses were too different, and they should keep their distance. But Leo completely misunderstood. He thought she was passive-aggressively jabbing at him for being busy talking to other girls, because Stacy and Zoe had added him last night. He immediately started explaining. "Last night, your two roommates want a ride, and I said no. Then later they somehow found my contact info and sent me friend requests, but I never even accepted them. You can't be mad at me for something like that, can you?" Julian stared at him, stunned. After a moment, it clicked. She and Leo were on completely different planets. "Who adds you has nothing to do with me," she said coolly. "Why would I be mad about that?" "What?" Seeing her unmoved, Leo got a little desperate. "I really didn't accept their requests. I even changed my privacy settings so no one can add me without an invite. Seriously." Seeing him scramble to explain himself, Julianne couldn't help but cover her mouth to hide a smile. "No need to explain. I'm not interested in your social life. Bye." With that, she hurried up the stairs, leaving Leo standing there alone, completely bewildered. "You coming?" Damian asked, seeing Leo frozen in place. Leo turned to him. "Sterling, do you know what it means when a woman suddenly starts giving you the cold shoulder?" Damian scratched his head. "What does it mean?" Leo stared at him intently. "It means she likes someone else." "Oh, is that right?" Damian nodded, then asked blankly, "So, who does Julianne Hale like?" "Why are you staring at me?" Damian took a step back, frowning. "You don't think she likes me, do you?" "It's highly possible." Leo nodded. He couldn't think of any other reasonable explanation. After all, in the original story, Julianne was the villain who had used every trick in the book to win Damian's love. "No way. Absolutely impossible." Damian waved his hands dismissively. "I haven't done anything to lead her on. Why would she suddenly like me? Give me one good reason." "Does liking someone need a reason?" Leo countered. "Doesn't it? Does it? Doesn't it?" The two of them argued back and forth as they walked into the classroom. Serafina Rose, who was sharing her breakfast with Julianne, saw them and immediately let her imagination run wild. Seeing the world through shipping goggles, her first thought was, it's totally normal for a cute couple to have a little fight now and then. Just as she was lost in thought, Leo walked over, interrupting her daydream. "Serafina, mind if we switch seats? I need to talk to her." "Oh." Serafina glanced at Julianne, then at Leo, and nodded. "Sure, I knew it," she thought. Damian's upset because Leo and Jules are getting too close. Their relationship is on the rocks. I guess it's up to me to help them patch things up. If Leo and Damian knew what was going through her head, they probably would have had simultaneous aneurysms. Julianne immediately grabbed Serafina's arm. "Sarah, don't move. Stay here." Serafina waved her off. "It's fine, Jules. You and Leo talk it out. I'll go have a chat with Damian." "Wait, Sarah." But before Julianne could say another word, Serafina was already heading to the back row. Damian naturally slid into the seat next to her. Leo plopped down in Serafina's recently vacated seat and stared at Julianne. Julianne wrinkled her nose and glared back, trying to look fierce. They stared at each other in silence for a long moment. Leo broke the stalemate first. "Tell me the truth. You like someone, don't you?" His words sent a jolt through Julianne's heart. The cool, rational composure she'd sworn to maintain just a second ago shattered into a million pieces. "WH, what are you talking about?" "I don't like." She stammered nervously. Seeing the flicker of panic on her face, Leo leaned in closer before she could finish, pressing her. "You've fallen for Damian Sterling, haven't you? Is that it?" "I don't what?" The blush of embarrassment on Julianne's face instantly vanished, replaced by an icy glare. She scowled. "Are you insane? Why on earth would I like Damian Sterling? If you don't like him, then why are you giving me the cold shoulder?" Now, it was Leo's turn to feel uncertain. "What does me giving you the cold shoulder have to do with liking Damian Sterling?" Julianne said, genuinely angry now. "What kind of twisted logic is that?" Seeing her anger, Leo shrank back a little. "So you really don't like him?" he asked quietly. "Why would I like him for no reason? Then why are you suddenly so cold to me?" "I'm not being cold to you." Seeing the genuinely hurt look on his face, Julianne suddenly wanted to laugh. Her tone softened considerably. "I just think we're getting a little too close, and it's not a good look. What's not good about it? Leo asked. Julianne thought for a few seconds before deciding to just be honest. Come on, Leo. You're Leo Miller. The entire Ethelberg Royal Academy practically belongs to your family. I'm just a work-study student at this fancy school. The gap between us is huge. People will talk if they see us hanging out all the time. Who would dare to talk? Leo propped his chin on his hand, leaning on the desk. Don't worry. Hang out with me, and no one will say a word. And if they do, I'll make their life a living hell. Julianne laughed at his words. What are you in a mob? Threatening to take care of people? Leo grinned. It's hyperbole, a literary device. Don't you recognize quality writing when you hear it? Ha ha ha. The joke finally broke through her defenses, and she laughed, covering her mouth. Quality my ass. Seeing her bright, happy smile, Leo thought back to her subtle change in expression the night before when she heard his funds were unfrozen. It all finally clicked. He finally understood why she'd suddenly turned cold. Realizing this, a quiet smile spread across his face. Julianne Hale, he thought, you're a strange one. Anyone else finds out who I am, and they're all over me, practically gluing themselves to my leg. But you run for the hills. And yet, this was the same strange girl who, later in the story, would transform into a manipulative schemer who would stop at nothing, only to meet a tragic end. The thought made his heart ache for her even more. Julianne, Leo said suddenly. She looked at him. What is it? Leo spoke each word clearly. Don't feel burdened by being my friend. Really? Of course, he nodded. Can you tell me why? Her sly, fox-like eyes stared straight into his. Because Leo desperately wanted to tell her everything. Because I've lived a life just like yours. Because I know exactly how you feel. Because I really, really want to help you, to change your fate. But he couldn't say a single one of those things. Because Leo finally said, I want to be your best friend. Julianne's lips parted slightly. A flicker of disappointment flashed in her eyes before she quickly concealed it. She smiled, her gaze serious. You really want to be friends with me? Leo emphasized, your best friend? Best friend? Julianne tried to console herself. Being best friends isn't so bad, right? At least it means he's not just being nice to me out of pity. But why'd her heart feel so heavy with disappointment? As emotion once again took over, the rational girl was swept away. Julianne slowly looked up, suddenly realizing just how close they were. She could feel the warmth of his breath. Her cheeks flushed crimson, and her heart began to hammer against her ribs. Her words came out in a flustered, stuttering mess. You should back up a little. Not until you promise you won't deliberately ignore me anymore. Seeing Leo's face still inching closer, Julianne's last shred of reason flew out the window. I promise, she squeaked. That's more like it. Leo nodded, a satisfied smile spreading across his face now that their misunderstanding was cleared up. As her emotions began to settle, Julianne seemed to remember something. Leo, she said suddenly, I'm sorry, but you might be in for a rough time in a minute. Huh? What do you mean? Before he could get an answer, Stacy's son and Zoe Zhang, dressed in ridiculously over-the-top outfits, strutted into the classroom. Stacy's son sauntered into the classroom like she was on a runway. She wore a low-cut crop top that barely covered her navel and a miniskirt so short a light breeze would cause a public indecency charge. Paired with thigh-high stockings and red heels, she looked less like a student and more like she was dressed for a shift at a seedy nightclub. Zoe Zhang, trailing behind her, was in a similar getup. Another low-cut top, shorts that were more suggestion than fabric, and of course the stockings and heels. Unfortunately for Zoe, her physique couldn't quite pull the look off. Holy crap, Leo muttered after a quick scan. He turned to Julianne, his face a mask of shock. Did your roommates forget to put on clothes over their underwear? Ha! Julianne burst out laughing at his comment. She shook her head. I have no idea. Probably trying to get attention. Just, whatever you do, don't look. Why not? Julianne covered her mouth, still giggling. You'll get an eye infection if you look at something that gross. Hearing that, Leo's gaze instinctively dropped to Julianne's chest. Where are you looking? Julianne covered her chest with one hand and poked him in the forehead with the other, half annoyed, half flirting. Are you a pervert? As they were talking, Stacy and Zoe had made their way to Leo's desk. Stacy leaned down low. President Miller, she purred. I sent you a friend request last night. How come you haven't accepted it yet? She bent over, propping her chin on her hand, giving Leo an eyeful and not seeming to care in the slightest. Leo's eyes went wide. He was completely dumbfounded. The guy had been single his whole life. He'd never seen a spectacle like this. Beside him, Julianne suddenly felt a surge of panic. Her original plan was to watch these two gold diggers make fools of themselves. But now, instead of a comedy show, Leo was getting a free peep show. If she could do it over, she definitely would have come up with a different way to mess with him last night. This was a serious miscalculation. With Leo staring, eyes wide, she couldn't say anything directly. In a moment of pure impulse, she reached under the desk and gave his thigh a vicious pinch. Hiss! Leo silently ducked his head. It wasn't a sudden attack of morality. Julianne's pinch was so sharp he had to look down at his leg in pain. After glancing at the red mark already forming, he looked back at her. Julianne was smiling sweetly as if nothing had happened, but her eyes were simmering with a murderous, vinegary jealousy. A jealousy she probably didn't even recognize herself. Damian, sitting in the row behind Leo, was equally shocked. From his angle, he could see the same scenery as Leo. But with Serafina right next to him, he was determined to prove he was a gentleman and avoid any misunderstandings. He immediately lowered his head and stared at his desk. Serafina, meanwhile, glanced at the provocatively dressed girls, then at Damian, who was pointedly ignoring them. A wave of disappointment washed over her. He really isn't interested in girls, she thought sadly. I guess I really don't have a chance. Damian snuck a peek at Serafina. Seeing her looking at him, he preened internally. That's right, baby. My iron will has you captivated. You're falling for me now. Heh. Seeing Stacy shamelessly flaunting herself, Zoe wasn't about to be outdone. She elbowed Stacy aside and bent over Leo's desk. President Miller, I had some questions for you last night, too. Why didn't you accept my friend request? Zoe, you've crossed the line. Shoved aside, Stacy dropped the act and confronted her angrily. What do you think you're doing? What am I doing? Zoe shot back defiantly. I'm just talking to our class president. What else would I be doing? Stacy spelled it out. You know I'm trying to get with him. Why are you deliberately getting in my way? So what? Only you're allowed to go after him. Zoe put her hands on her hips, her voice rising. It's a fair competition. May the best woman win. Don't come crying to me just because you can't cut it. What did you just say, you backstabbing bitch? Stacy's words turned into actions as she lunged. Zoe fought back immediately, grabbing a handful of Stacy's hair while spitting insults. You walk around dressed like a slut trying to seduce every guy in sight, and you have the nerve to call me names? Who the hell do you think you are? Class was about to start, and most of the students had arrived. Now, everyone was watching the two girls fighting and screaming in the aisle. Leo's first instinct was to ask Julianne, should we get Mr. Chase? Don't you dare. Julianne pursed her lips, a wicked, troublemaking smile spreading across her face. Isn't a dogfight more fun to watch? It was finally dawning on Leo. So, them showing up dressed like this to harass me. This was part of your plan, wasn't it? What are you talking about? The wicked smile vanished, replaced in a split second by a look of pure, wide-eyed innocence. I don't know anything. Don't you go accusing me of things. But, you. Leo was momentarily speechless. Watching Julianne's masterful performance and brilliant scheming, Leo finally realized that, despite having written novels his whole life, he was a complete amateur compared to this cunning little devil. No wonder Hollywood was struggling. All the best actors were clearly students at USC. Julianne put a finger to her lips in a SHHH gesture. Just wait. It's not over yet. She then raised her voice, mediating the fight. Hey, Stacy, Zoe, stop fighting. You're making the president feel terrible, seeing you two fight over him in class. This way, he won't know which one of you to choose. The moment the words left her mouth, the two disheveled girls ran to Leo's desk and demanded in unison, President Miller, who do you like? Me or her? Wait. What? Things are moving too fast for Leo to even process. See, you've made him feel guilty, Julianne said, pointing at the bewildered Leo. Stop fighting. From what I know, our class president has been single his whole life. A faithful guy like him would hate to see you two fighting over him. Right, President Miller? Serafina, as vice president, also stood up to help. Yes, Jules is right. You're roommates. You shouldn't be fighting. She had no idea this was all a setup orchestrated by Julianne. Leo, meanwhile, was beet red, looking at Julianne in embarrassment. Me? You? Why did you have to tell everyone I've never had a girlfriend? See? A loyal guy like him has never even dated. Julianne continued, her words like magic, fanning the flames of their rivalry. You should compete fairly. Why resort to fighting? Her words boiled down to 3 key pieces of information. Handsome and rich, loyal in love, and never been in a relationship. With Leo himself having basically admitted he was single, and Julianne adding fuel to the fire, The two emotionally charged girls were in no state to think clearly. Fair competition? Not a chance. Stacy made the first move, grabbing Zoe's hair. Give it up, you conniving bitch. The president would never go for a flat-chested twig like you. Zoe yanked back on Stacy's hair. You brainless bimbo. You think just because he doesn't want me, he'd want you? Your ugly face is disgusting without a pound of makeup on. Leo stared blankly as the two girls were driven into a frenzy by Julianne's words. A shiver went down his spine. Her ability to sow discord was terrifying. Look, look, Julianne tapped Leo's arm, her voice buzzing with excitement. They're really fighting. They're actually throwing punches. Leo turned to look. What started as hair-pulling had now escalated to other physical actions. Stacy slapped Zoe across the face. Enraged, Zoe reached out and ripped at Stacy's top. Rip! The flimsy fabric of Stacy's top tore, exposing a large swath of skin. Before Leo could see anything, his world went dark. Julianne had covered his eyes with her hand. Parental advisory, she said. Leo was torn between laughing and crying. Weren't you the one who just told me to look? You can look at what you're supposed to look at, Julianne said, her tone sour with jealousy. But you're not allowed to look at what you're not supposed to look at. And what if I already saw something? Leo asked. Julianne thought for a moment. Then I won't be your best friend anymore. From the back row, Serafina tapped both of them on the shoulder. President Miller, Jules, shouldn't we break it up? People are filming them on their phones. This is going to look really bad if it keeps going. Julianne nodded, grabbing her jacket as she stood up. You're right. The show should probably end now. She walked over and draped her jacket over Stacy's torn top, while Serafina pulled back a stunned Zoe. Leo was about to get up and say something, but just then Mr. Chase, their academic advisor, came rushing in. Someone must have texted him a tip. Mr. Chase roared from the doorway. Stacy's son, Zoe Zhang. Get out here now. At the sight of their advisor, the fight drained out of both girls. They hung their heads and shuffled out of the classroom. What do you two think you're doing? What in the world are you wearing? This is disgraceful. Utterly indecent. What do you think you are? This is a university. And what are you? You're students. Do you look like students dressed like that? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're in college. The advisor's furious lecture echoed down the hallway, loud enough for everyone in the classroom to hear clearly. Julianne sat back down in her seat, humming a little tune. Seeing the two girls she despised get their comeuppance had put her in a great mood. Try to steal my man? She thought viciously. You'll all pay. The thought startled her. She covered her mouth and whispered. Yikes, what am I thinking? Leo turned to look at her. What are you muttering about? None of your business, Julianne said with a pout. And stop looking at me. Women, Leo thought. So fickle. 1 minute she agrees to be my best friend, the next she's snapping at me. He grumbled internally for a moment. But then again, Julianne's divide-and-conquer strategy had been brilliant. She played those two girls like fiddles, and in the end, they would probably even thank her, especially Stacy. Julianne had shown up with a jacket at her most vulnerable moment, saving her from complete humiliation. Thinking of the jacket, Leo looked at Julianne again. WH, what are you looking at me for? Julianne asked, feeling a bit guilty. She didn't know why, but whenever she met Leo's gaze, her rational side just seemed to melt away. The clever, calculating girl hated that feeling. The jacket, Leo asked. That wasn't part of your plan too, was it? Get real. Julianne shot him a look. I just grabbed it this morning because it was a little cold. What do you think I am? Some kind of mastermind who planned for that too. I just thought. You thought what? Julianne narrowed her fox-like eyes as if she could see right through him. You thought I was some kind of evil genius manipulating everything from behind the scenes? Leo's heart skipped a beat. He quickly waved his hands. No way. I wasn't thinking that at all. Julianne pouted. Your eyes are telling a different story. Could President Miller step out here for a moment? Mr. Chase called from the doorway. He had finished lecturing the two girls, who had since gone back to their dorm to change. Leo got up and walked out of the classroom. In the hallway, Mr. Chase asked cautiously, Mr. Miller, are you all right? Those two girls didn't hurt you, did they? Leo becoming class president had made his father, Charles Miller, very happy. The dean of the business school had praised Mr. Chase by name in a meeting that morning and even given him a small bonus. Chase hadn't even had time to celebrate before he got word that two female students were fighting over the chance to be Leo's girlfriend. The news had terrified him. If anything happened to Leo Miller in a class under his supervision, his career as an advisor would be over. So he had run straight from the meeting to the classroom building. Seeing that Leo was unharmed was a huge relief. Leo waved his hand. I'm fine. Rest assured, Mr. Miller. Chase said carefully. I've already disciplined them. This will never happen again. Please, don't be upset. It's really fine. It's not your fault. Seeing how flustered Chase was, Leo wanted to laugh. Julianne was the one who started the fire, but Chase was the one getting burned. He almost felt sorry for the guy. You got here very quickly, mister. Chase, Leo said, clapping him on the shoulder. You're a very responsible and dedicated teacher. The praise was music to Chase's ears. Oh, Mr. Miller, you're too kind. When it's just us, you can just call me Chase. All right, Chase. You can get back to your work. I should get to class. Of course. I won't disturb you any longer. The advisor turned and left. When Leo returned to the classroom, Julianne asked with a hint of concern, We didn't get chewed out, did you? She thought the advisor had called him out to yell at him. After all, he was the class president. If something like that happened in his class, and he did nothing, it would be reasonable for the advisor to reprimand him. Seeing her anxious expression, Leo decided to mess with her. I did. Mister. Chase really laid into me. Oh, I. Hearing this, Julianne felt a pang of guilt. This was her setup, and now Leo was getting in trouble for it. I'm so sorry. Well, at least you have a conscience, Leo said, leaning closer. But just saying sorry isn't enough, is it? How are you going to compensate me? What kind of compensation do you want? Julianne watched as Leo's face grew larger and larger in her vision, and she squeezed her eyes shut in panic. Is he going to kiss me? Here? In the middle of the classroom? Leo leaned closer and closer to Julianne, and then, swipe. He snatched the untouched breakfast from her desk drawer. This breakfast is mine now. Wah. Julianne's eyes flew open. She stared at a grinning Leo, completely dumbfounded. That's it? That's all? This clueless idiot just stole her breakfast? Sure, she would have 100% rejected him if he had actually tried to kiss her, but just stealing her breakfast? What was that supposed to mean? Was her feminine charm really less appealing than a bagel and a cup of coffee? A profound sense of defeat washed over her. Leo saw her face fall and assumed she was angry that he'd taken her food. Hey, I'm not taking all of it, he said quickly. There are 2 bagels here. I'll eat one. You can have the other, okay? Julianne's fox-like eyes narrowed. I've lost my appetite, she said haughtily. You can have it all. Hey, I'm just taking one bagel. Why are you getting so mad? Leo put the breakfast back on her desk untouched. Fine, I won't eat it. Here, it's all yours. Staring at the breakfast on her desk, Julianne frowned at him. What? Is the breakfast I bought not good enough for you? Leo was completely lost. Aren't you the one who's mad at me? I'm not mad. Eat your bagel. Consider it my compensation to you. Julianne pushed the breakfast back onto his desk. Wah! Leo looked at the bagel, then back at Julianne's attitude, a sense of panic rising in his chest. Everyone said girls were impossible to figure out. What did she even mean right now? Was he supposed to eat this breakfast or not? He stared at it, completely stumped. If Julianne didn't spell out why she was upset, a clueless guy like Leo would probably go to his grave without ever figuring it out. Eat it. Why aren't you eating? Julianne asked when she saw him hesitating. She meant nothing by it. She just wanted him to eat. Leo thought for a moment. Can I really eat it? Julianne frowned. What? You wanted to feed it to you? A wire short-circuited in Leo's brain. Well, that's not out of the question. Julianne's eyes went wide. Ahem, I was just kidding, Leo said awkwardly, grabbing a bagel and stuffing it in his mouth. He hadn't eaten yet and finished it in a few bites. He left the second one and offered it back to Julianne. What for? We agreed. One for each of us. I told you, I have no appetite. You eat it. Come on. Leo opened the bag, held the bagel up to her lips, and said, Eat. You'll get an ulcer if you skip breakfast. As soon as the words left his mouth, Damian, sitting behind him, clutched his stomach, his face pale. Serafina asked with concern, What's wrong? I think my ulcer is acting up, Damian said with a pained smile. It's fine, it's an old problem. You didn't eat breakfast, did you? Serafina offered him one of the bagels Julianne had brought for her. Here, eat something. It'll help settle your stomach. Thanks. Damian's heart warmed as he took the bagel from her. Ha! Woman, he thought with an inner smirk. You're the first person to show me such concern. Leo gestured with his chin toward the back row and whispered to Julianne, See? That's what happens when you don't eat breakfast. You'll end up with an ulcer just like him. Damian, who was in the middle of a bite, suddenly looked up. Miller, are you talking trash about me behind my back? No, you must have misheard me, Leo said, looking mortified. Seeing Leo's comical expression, Julianne couldn't hold back a laugh. Leo waggled the bagel in his hand. Here, appetite or not, you need to eat breakfast. Got it. His words seemed to put Julianne in a trance. When she was little and refused to eat, her grandmother used to coax her just like this. Julianne opened her mouth and took a small bite of the bagel. Her soft, warm lips brushed against his fingertips. Leo's hand froze. Then his entire body went rigid. The sudden impact was too much. His brain short-circuited. How could he even describe that feeling? A girl suddenly eating out of your hand, then looking up at you with those wide, innocent eyes. It was devastatingly cute. It was like encountering a beautiful little fox in the forest. You offer it food, and just as you open the wrapper, it nuzzles up and starts eating right from your hand, all while staring at you with the most guileless expression. What kind of ridiculous metaphors were these? Leo felt like he was losing his mind. His face turned visibly red. Julianne was blushing just as furiously. The memory of her grandmother had made her act on impulse, and by the time she realized what she'd done, a crimson blush had spread from her cheeks to the tips of her ears, even tinting her pale neck a delicate pink. Panic and shyness filled her eyes, and her heart pounded so hard she felt it might leap out of her throat. She instinctively looked down, not daring to meet his gaze, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt as if that could somehow ease her embarrassment. "Julianne, what are you doing?" She berated herself internally. "Have you lost your mind? How could you do something so embarrassing? What is Leo going to think of you?" They sat in awkward silence for a long moment, until Julianne finally snatched the half-eaten bagel from his hand. "You said you wanted to be my best friend, so feeding me should count as something friends do, right?" she said, trying desperately to justify her actions. "Mm." Leo nodded, his brain still rebooting. He looked like an idiot and didn't even really hear what she said. Seeing that Leo didn't seem to mind, in reality, he was just stunned. Julianne didn't overthink it. She clutched the bagel and ate it quietly, her head still bowed. Leo stole a glance at her. As she took small bites, her ears twitched slightly. She really did look like a fluffy little baby animal. So cute. Why is my heart beating so fast? Leo pressed a hand to his chest, where his heart was threatening to break free. She's faking it, he thought desperately. She has to be. The villain from my book could never be this adorable. She's definitely putting on an act. She's doing this because she wants. What does she possibly want from me? She doesn't want my money. It's not like she wants me, right? His head was spinning. He couldn't even keep his own thoughts straight anymore. Time flew by, and soon it was lunchtime. Julianne, having returned from a drink run, handed a stack of bills to Leo. "Here." Leo, who was in the middle of gnawing on a chicken leg, looked up at the cash. "I asked you to grab me a soda, and you come back like you just hit a jackpot." "I stopped by the university logistics office on my way back from the cafe," Julianne explained. "I cashed out my meal card. They could only refund whole dollar amounts, so here's $800. I'll pay you back the last dozen or so bucks on the card when I have the money." "What?" Leo stopped eating his chicken. "What do I do now? Why are you cashing out the card to give it back to me?" Julianne pointed at his car keys on the table. "Your funds are unfrozen, right? You don't need me to pay for your meals anymore, so of course I have to give the money back. Just keep it for yourself." "I don't want it." Julianne placed the money next to his hand. "It was your money to begin with. I can't take something for nothing. Besides, I already owe you so much. If I take any more, I'll never be able to pay you back." Leo thought for a moment. "Well, think about it. Now that I have my money back, I need this $800 even less. It was already on your card. What kind of person takes back money they already gave away? Do you think I'm that cheap? Just consider a bonus for letting me use your card." He grabbed the stack of cash and stuffed it into Julianne's bag. "But this is—" "No buts." Leo held up a hand to stop her. "My money practically grows on trees. Spend it. Don't worry about it." Though he meant well and wasn't intentionally showing off, his words still made Julianne want to punch him. When she didn't say anything, Leo continued. "You're going to be a great writer someday. If you don't eat properly, where are you going to get the energy and focus to create good work? So eat well, understand?" I know. You're such a nag, just like my mom." Julianne grumbled, but a warmth spread through her chest. Her impatient tone reminded Leo of how he used to feel when his own mother nagged him. Thinking back to his time struggling as an intern in Sunan, the words just tumbled out. "You should be grateful. At least you have me to nag you now. Just wait until you graduate. You're renting some tiny studio apartment in a big city, your books aren't making any money, and you don't know where your next meal is coming from. When you're rolling on the floor with stomach pains and can't even afford medicine, you'll understand just how valuable my nagging is." "Oh, really?" Julianne raised an eyebrow. "You seem to know a lot about that. You say it like you've actually lived it." I read it in a novel," Leo said after a slight pause. Julianne rolled her eyes, half amused. "Is there any kind of novel you don't read?" "Never mind the novels." Leo waved his hand. "Did you hear what I said? Eat properly." "And what if I can't afford to eat?" Julianne propped her elbows on the table, rested her chin in her hands, and stared at him with her beautiful eyes. If you can't afford to eat, you come to me. Leo puffed out his chest. You think I'd let a friend of mine starve? I promised I'd help you, and I'll see it through to the end. A smile played on Julianne's lips. Are you saying you're going to support me? No problem. I'll support you, Leo replied without hesitation. As long as you haven't become a famous author, I'll keep supporting you. His words made Julianne's head feel dizzy, like she was drunk. She blushed. What if I never become a famous author? Are you going to support me for the rest of my life? Why not? Leo said, completely serious. As long as Leo Miller is on this earth, supporting you for a lifetime isn't a problem. The Miller family has deep pockets. You think we can't afford to support one girl? Julianne looked like she was completely intoxicated, with 2 faint pink patches on her cheeks. Leo Miller, what do you really want from me? Why are you being so good to me? Leo gritted his teeth. I just have too much money and nowhere to spend it. I'm burning cash. What's wrong with sponsoring a girl in need? Even he thought the reason sounded ridiculous. Okay, stop. Julianne cut him off. His sweet talk was having a devastating effect on her. She could feel herself losing her grip on rationality again. For the first time, she felt like she was living in one of those alpha billionaire romances. A handsome, wealthy guy suddenly crashes into your life, tells you he'll support you forever, and claims to have no ulterior motives. It sounded exactly like a trap, but just thinking about it was thrilling. Every word Leo said was true. But how could a shrewd girl like her believe such honeyed, trap-like words? She decided he was just joking and didn't take it to heart. She mentally added the $800 to the running tab of what she owed Leo. As soon as she found a way to earn some money, she would pay him back. Gazing at Leo, who was now back to devouring his chicken leg, an excellent idea for a novel suddenly struck her. What are you staring at me for? Leo saw the strange glint in her eyes and assumed she was hatching another one of her schemes. He instinctively shrank back. Julianne suppressed a wave of excitement. Leo, I just thought of a great story. Want to hear it? Leo nodded. Let's hear it. What do you think of this? A billionaire CEO character travels out of his own novel and falls in love with a broke, struggling female author. Is there potential there? Julianne's words made Leo's eyes light up. He put down his chicken leg, his voice filled with excitement. Quick, give me the details. I want to hear everything. Seeing his interest, Julianne eagerly elaborated. So, the female protagonist is really poor, right? To make some extra money in college, she starts writing a novel. It's a billionaire romance, but it never really takes off, so she gives up on it. But then, the male protagonist climbs right out of the book to find her. A handsome, charming alpha male suddenly bursts into her life. He can't bring his money from the book world with him, but he still has all his skills and charisma. This perfect man is always there to save her whenever she's in trouble. And through all the little moments of their daily lives, they fall in love. What do you think? Does a sweet romance like that have potential? It definitely has potential. Leo gave her a thumbs up. Julianne, you're a genius. Why didn't I ever think of a premise like that? Leo wondered. If he'd come up with a sweet romance with a gimmick like that, he wouldn't have been so broke he was considering working on an assembly line. So I should try it. Write it. I've even thought of a title for you. Just call it OMG. My alpha billionaire protagonist came to life. It'll be a massive hit. Seeing his excitement, Julianne smiled. And what if it's not a hit? Hey, I already told you, Leo said with a grin. If it's not a hit, I'll support you. I'll support you. Hearing those 3 words, Julianne's heart skipped a beat. Coming soon, a new romance novel from Orion's Quill. OMG. My alpha billionaire protagonist came to life. After their dressing down for Mr. Chase, Stacy and Zoe were noticeably more subdued for the next few days. The two, who had once been inseparable, were now sworn enemies. Their relationship so bad they didn't even speak to each other in their dorm room. The 2 idiots were practically at war, yet it never occurred to them to suspect the true instigator, Julianne. Stacy, in particular, was incredibly grateful to Julianne for lending her the jacket that day. As a result, Stacy now followed Julianne around like a lost puppy. Zoe, unable to cozy up to Julianne, latched onto Serafina instead. This created 2 new problems. Leo and Julianne now had a third wheel. Damian and Serafina now had a permanent unwanted guest. Leo and Julianne didn't mind too much. They just carried on with their conversations, treating Stacy like she was invisible. But Damian found it incredibly awkward. Every time he tried to talk to Serafina, someone would butt in, and it felt weird. Back at their suite, Damian went to Leo for help. Miller, you gotta help me think of something. If this keeps up, my chances with Serafina are toast. Well, Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What do you want me to do about it? I can't exactly call a hit on Zoe, can I? Hey, good idea. Damian's face lit up, and he immediately pulled out his phone. I'll find a hitman right now and take care of her. Whoa, what are you doing? Leo snatched the phone out of his hand. This is a society with laws. Murder is illegal. After saying that, Leo recalled how, when writing his novel, he'd often had his Dragon King protagonist threaten to destroy so-and-so in minutes just to show how powerful he was. Yep, he had dug this pit all by himself. Well, do you have any better ideas? Damian shrugged. That Stacy girl is always following you two around. Doesn't she annoy you? It's not so bad. The main reason was that when Leo and Julianne talked about writing, Stacy couldn't get a word in edgewise, so she just faded into the background. Speaking of which, what was the original purpose of writing Stacy and Zoe into the story? The details were so minor that Leo himself had almost forgotten. The Sterling Heir's Sheltered Heart was over 2 million words long, with at least 1 million of those being filler, and by the end, he'd forgotten most of the messy, early-stage subplots. Leo glanced at his phone. It's Friday. No class tomorrow. You got the whole weekend. Just ask Serafina out on a proper date. Once you're off campus, it's not like Zoe can follow you, right? Oh, right. A look of pure astonishment crossed Damian's face. Leo looked at the handsome, yet utterly clueless, expression on Damian's face and could hardly bear to watch. This Damian was too dumb. He was definitely not the favorite son Leo had created in his book. Damian stood up and headed toward his bedroom. Where are you going? Leo asked. I need to plan where I'm taking Serafina this weekend. As Damian's door clicked shut, Leo muttered to himself, Plan what? You're definitely going to see each other on Saturday anyway. After Damian left, Leo went back to his own room. He just flopped on his bed when he got a message from Julianne. Julianne, Mr. Miller, are you free tonight? Leo, not interested. Julianne, jerk. Julianne also sent a sticker of a cartoon character wielding a knife. Lying on his bed, Leo laughed out loud at her furious reply. Leo, what's up tonight? Julianne, can I trouble you to come with me to the hospital tonight? Julianne, my mom was supposed to be discharged tomorrow, but she's insisting on coming home tonight. I was hoping you could help me pick her up. Leo, no problem. Julianne, bring your old minivan. Don't you dare bring that weird car with the doors that open up. My mom would see it, and it would be impossible to explain. Leo? Leo was stunned. His beloved supercar was just called a weird car by this girl. Now his feelings were truly hurt. Julianne, what's wrong? Leo, nothing. Got it. Whatever he thought. Girls don't get cars. Not worth arguing about. He put his phone down and stared at the ceiling. He felt a heavy, oppressive feeling in his chest, like he had something nagging at the back of his mind. He fell asleep with that strange feeling hanging over him. There were only 2 finance classes in the afternoon. After they were done, he could leave campus for the weekend. Leo drove his sports car home, swapped it for the old minivan, and picked up Julianne at the school gate. Together, they drove to the hospital where her mother was staying. Julianne's mother was named Clara Hale. She was the same age as Leo's mother, Michelle, but where Michelle was so well-preserved she looked like a newlywed, streaks of white were already appearing in Clara's hair. Years of hard work had etched deep wrinkles onto her face, making her look much older. You must be Julianne's classmate. Here, have some water, Clara said, pulling a bottle of mineral water from a bag and handing it to Leo. Leo took the water. Thank you, ma'am. I'm Leo Miller. Julianne told me you were being discharged today. I happen to have this beat-up minivan, so I thought I'd swing by and see if I could give you 2 a ride home. Oh, that's too much trouble. We were just going to take the bus back, Clara said, glancing at her daughter. Julianne patted her mother's arm. Mom, Leo is our class president. He's a really great guy, very helpful. Even so, you shouldn't trouble people like this. Clara chided softly. Her mother's injuries hadn't fully healed. The hospital wanted her to stay for another week or 2 for observation, but the daily cost was astronomical. There was no way Clara would agree to that. She had insisted on going home to recover, refusing to stay even one more night. In fact, she hadn't wanted to be admitted at all. Julianne, worried that the debt collectors would show up again, had forced her to stay in the hospital. Leo drove the minivan, taking Julianne and Clara back to their apartment in the projects. Clara insisted on going to buy groceries to cook for Leo, but he wouldn't dream of letting a woman who wasn't even fully recovered cook for him. He quickly refused her kind offer and, not even daring to step inside, drove away as soon as they were out of the van. Watching Leo's taillights disappear, Clara asked her daughter, Julianne, that classmate of yours, why is he so shy? Julianne thought for a moment. Sometimes, he can be a little too friendly. Like when they first met. Clara looked at her daughter's expression and asked quizzically, "Are you in him?" "Mom, what are you thinking? We're just really good friends." Julianne flatly denied any romantic connection. Clara didn't press the issue. "It's the weekend tomorrow. Invite him over for lunch." "Okay, I'll ask him later." "And what about that animal? He's probably still in custody. What about the debt collectors? Have they been back to harass us?" "I don't know. I've been staying at the dorm." On the drive home, that same oppressive, anxious feeling from earlier in the day washed over Leo again. He felt like he'd forgotten something important, but for the life of him, he couldn't remember what. What could it be? He muttered to himself. Distracted, he nearly swerved into a guardrail. The near miss snapped him back to reality. He forced himself to focus on driving, and the unsettling feeling gradually faded. Half an hour later, he arrived home. After parking the minivan, he walked inside. His parents were in the middle of dinner. "Son, have you eaten?" They both asked at the same time. "Not yet." Leo sat down naturally across from his father, and a plate of food was quickly placed in front of him. Staring at the artfully arranged dish and the polished silverware, Leo's heart sank. "Are we having fine dining again tonight? Is something wrong?" Charles Miller speared a piece of beef with his fork. "I thought steak was your favorite." His father's words made Leo freeze. He remembered being a child, peering through the windows of fancy restaurants, watching people eat elegantly with knives and forks. He had sworn himself back then that one day he would take his own mother to eat at a high-class place like that. That was why his novel's protagonist exclusively ate Western food. It was the standard for the upper crust. But now that the days of eating fancy food were here, he dreaded it. This so-called fine dining was nothing special. Fast food was better. If he had to choose, he'd much rather have Julianne's home-cooked meals. It was true. Demystifying the world really did eliminate 90% of your worries. Seeing that Leo didn't look eager to eat, Michelle said, "If you don't want this, I can have Mrs. Gable make you a bowl of noodles." Leo managed to smile. "No need, Mom. I'll eat this." "Son, are you getting tired of the menu?" Charles asked after swallowing. "I can have the house manager hire a few top-tier comfort food chefs." "Dad, you're the best." Leo put down his knife and gave his father a thumbs up. "I love you, man." Charles waved his hand. "It's a small thing. I'm your dad, after all." Leo smiled a tight, thin line. "I wish you really were my dad," he thought. After dinner, Leo went back to his room. Lying down right after eating wasn't great, but without a phone to scroll through, he had nothing else to do. He saw a message from Julianne that had come an hour ago. "Julianne, my mom wants you to come over for lunch tomorrow." "Julianne, did you get this?" "Squeak if you got it." Leo typed back a single word, "Squeak." About 3 or 4 minutes later, she replied with a string of question marks. "Leo, you told me to squeak." "Julianne." "Julianne, I meant reply to my message." "Julianne, you're trying to annoy me on purpose, aren't you?" "Leo, you figured it out." "Julianne, go away." "Leo, your mom isn't even fully recovered. It doesn't feel right for me to show up and eat your food." "Julianne, it's fine. I'm cooking tomorrow." "Leo, I want chicken legs." "Julianne, you really don't hold back, do you?" "Leo, you went out of your way to invite me. It'd be rude not to show up, right?" "Julianne, you and your twisted logic. I'm ignoring you. I have to go right." "Leo, go on then." He closed the chat and opened a shopping app. Typing on a phone was no substitute for a real keyboard. He decided to buy Julianne a laptop. The good thing about writing novels was that you didn't need a high-end computer. A cheap, used laptop that didn't lag while typing would be more than enough. Maybe he'd throw in an affordable mechanical keyboard, too. Leo knew Julianne wouldn't accept anything too expensive. He scrolled through the shopping app for a long time before finally settling on a used, refurbished laptop with a dedicated graphics card for $300. He also bought an ergonomic keyboard he'd used before and liked for $50 and a $20 wireless mouse. This setup would be perfect for her. After placing the order, a new problem arose. How was he going to give it to her? If he just handed it over, she would never accept it. This was a girl who insisted on settling a $1 debt with him. There was no way she'd take something worth over $300. Maybe I can give it to her as a birthday present, he thought. But when was her birthday? He didn't think he'd ever written it into the book. He couldn't even remember the birthdays of his main characters, so why would he have bothered with Julianne's? Even if he hadn't written it, she definitely had a birthday. He'd find a chance to ask her tomorrow. If her birthday was coming up soon, it would be the perfect excuse. If not, he'd just have to find another way. He nodded, satisfied with the plan. Putting his phone down, he stared at the ceiling. The heavy, oppressive feeling washed over him again. He'd been in this world for a while now, and he'd never felt like this before. Why do I feel so anxious? What did I forget? He thought and thought, until his eyelids grew heavy and he finally drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Leo woke up early. His father was in the dining room, sipping tea and reading the newspaper. After dinner last night, Charles had replaced the fine dining chef with a team that specialized in regional comfort food. Today's breakfast was a Southern-style spread: shrimp and grits, biscuits and gravy, sausage patties, fried green tomatoes. The table was laden with delicious-looking dishes. Leo poured himself some sweet tea to wet his throat, then started eating. "Dad, I need the minivan again today. Can you have a chef use my car to go grocery shopping?" "You little rascal." Charles put down his newspaper and asked with a grin. "The girl you're willing to pretend to be poor for must be someone special." "Huh?" Leo felt a bead of sweat trickle down his temple. "Dad, it's not like that. I'm not pretending to be poor to get a girl. You've completely misunderstood." "No need to explain. I get it." Charles cut him off. "Your old man's been around the block. You think I don't know what you're up to?" He gave Leo a sly smile, folded his newspaper, and stood up, clapping his son on the shoulder. "Go get her, son. I'm rooting for you." Without giving Leo a chance to explain, he turned and walked out toward the backyard. "But Leo sighed, staring at the shrimp in his bowl. After breakfast, Leo grabbed the keys to the minivan and left the house. "Leo, what does your mom like to eat?" Julianne, who was in the middle of washing vegetables, immediately picked up her phone to reply. But her wet hands made the screen go haywire. As everyone knows, a wet phone screen develops a mind of its own. Her phone automatically sent 2 random emojis, then jumped to her photo gallery, and then, with a mind of its own, scrolled up and accidentally sent a selfie from a few years ago. Horrified, Julianne quickly dried her hands and retracted the photo. But it was too late. Leo, who had been waiting for her reply, saw this selfie instantly. He instinctively saved it to his photo gallery, and then proceeded to appreciate it. Julianne looked mostly the same as she did now, but her face still had a bit of baby fat, which made her look even cuter. Now, the baby fat was gone, making her look more like a sly fox. "Looks like the last few years have been even rougher on her," he thought. "She's gotten so thin." With that thought, he grabbed 2 large canisters of protein powder from a supermarket shelf and put them in his cart. "Julianne, what did you see?" Leo waited a few seconds before pretending he hadn't seen anything. "Huh? What did you retract?" He typed back slowly. Seeing his reply, Julianne breathed a silent sigh of relief. "You didn't see anything, right?" "Leo, see what?" "Leo, what did you send?" "Leo, did I miss something good?" Say what you will, but Leo's little act was pretty effective. Julianne truly believed he hadn't seen a thing. "Julianne, it was nothing. My phone got wet, and I accidentally typed some gibberish." "Leo, TCH, and here I thought you sent something scandalous." "Julianne, you have a dirty mind. Get lost." "Leo, I'm at the supermarket. What is your mom like? Hurry up and tell me so I can buy some stuff." "Julianne, don't. My mom doesn't really take supplements or anything. Don't waste your money. Just come over for lunch." "Leo, no way. I have to buy something. I can't show up at your house as a guest empty-handed." Reading his message, Julianne started to grumble internally. He's being so polite now. When it was just me at home, he never brought anything. Is it just because my mom is here? Why is he making such a big deal out of it? Like he's meeting the parents. Yikes, what am I thinking? Julianne shook her head, trying to clear the ridiculous thoughts. "Julianne, buy what you want. I don't know what she likes." "Doesn't know?" That made it even easier. Leo grabbed another shopping cart and took a stroll through the health food aisle, filling 2 entire carts with supplements and organic groceries. There was so much stuff he had to ask a sales associate to help him carry it all down to the underground parking garage. The old minivan was a piece of junk, but it had plenty of space. The mountain of bags fit easily. "Hey, wait a sec," Leo called out as the sales associate was about to walk away. "What is it now?" The associate was getting impatient. She was tired from her morning shift and didn't appreciate being ordered around, but Leo had just spent several $1,000s, so she couldn't get angry. Leo pulled a luxury brand wallet from his pocket, extracted 2 crisp $100 bills, folded them, and handed them to her. The associate blinked. "Sir, what's this?" "Thanks for your help. A little tip," Leo said. He tossed his wallet onto the passenger seat, got in, closed the door, and drove out of the garage. A guy driving a beat-up minivan pulls out a designer wallet and tips $200. The associate stood there, stunned by the stark contrast, long after the van was gone. Leaving the mall, Leo drove straight for the projects. Julianne had already washed and chopped all the vegetables for lunch. Although she had told her mother to rest while she cooked, Clara had gotten out of bed to take over the stove. "You go rest, honey. Mom will cook," Clara said, taking Julianne's hand. "Mom, you're not even better yet." "Let me do it," Julianne insisted. "It's fine." Her mother stopped her with a smile. "The injury on my leg won't stop me from cooking." Seeing her mother was adamant, Julianne didn't argue. At 10:30, Leo's van pulled up downstairs. He had bought so much stuff that he had to call Julianne to come down and help him carry it. Dressed in a loose, daffodil yellow sundress and slippers, Julianne came downstairs. The dress fell just above her knees, leaving her fair, slender calves exposed. Leo, accidentally, let his gaze linger for an extra moment or two. It was definitely an accident. He really wasn't intentionally staring at her legs. Okay, he was totally staring. Her legs were beautifully shaped, long and graceful, with skin as smooth and pale as milk. Like what you see. I do. Want to touch. Here? I don't think that's appropriate. If you know it's not appropriate, then why are you still staring? Julianne glared at him, feigning disgust. Keep looking, and I'll gouge your eyes out. So vicious. Leo squeezed his eyes shut in mock terror. His silly act made her laugh. What did you call me down here for? This. Leo opened the back of the minivan, revealing it was stuffed to the brim with bags of snacks and health supplements. Julianne's eyes went wide. Did you buy out the entire supermarket? Leo waved his hand dismissively. Nah, just grabbed a few things. Julianne stared him straight in the eye. How much is a few things? Leo couldn't meet her gaze. He tilted his head back and said, a few $100, maybe. Tell that to someone who'll believe it. Do you take me for an idiot? Julianne said, her face a thundercloud. Those 2 canisters of protein powder alone are more than 100, and that's not even counting everything else. You think I don't go grocery shopping? All right, this girl wasn't so easy to fool. Leo was suddenly grateful he bought a used laptop. With her personality, he'd never be able to give her a new one. Don't worry about how much it cost. This is all for your mom. It has nothing to do with you, Leo said, shoving a few bags into her arms. Hurry up and take these. There's so much stuff, I can't carry it all by myself. You and your. Julianne wanted to scold him for wasting money, but then she remembered that to him, this amount was probably nothing, and he had bought it all for her mother. So, she swallowed the words. Carrying 2 large bags of supplements, Julianne felt a familiar heaviness in her chest. The debt of gratitude she owed Leo was growing larger and larger. How could she ever repay it? As if reading her mind, Leo smiled. Don't worry about it. We're going to be best friends, right? A few gifts are no big deal. Huh. Julianne rolled her eyes. This pile of supplements had to be worth thousands of dollars. How could she possibly ignore such a huge favor? What kind of friends casually give each other thousands of dollars worth of stuff like it's nothing? Lost in thought, Julianne led Leo back to her apartment. Clara, who was in the middle of cooking, immediately turned down the stove and came out to greet him. Oh, Leo, you're here. Come in, come in. Her words trailed off as her gaze fell on the mountain of bags in Leo's and her daughter's hands. Leo, what is all this? Clara looked up at him, completely bewildered. Leo had rehearsed his lines on the way over. He lied without batting an eye. Ma'am, I was in such a rush at the hospital yesterday, I didn't get a chance to bring you anything. It just so happens that my family is in the warehousing and distribution business. Sometimes we have surplus goods or things with dented packaging that retailers don't want, so they just leave them with us. I just grabbed a few things from the warehouse that weren't expired yet, and bought a case of milk and some snacks. It's just a small thought. I hope you don't mind. This is all stuff they were throwing away. Clara looked at the brand new, unopened packages of health supplements, clearly skeptical. Yep, that's right. Leo nodded with a smile. Please, just accept it. No, I can't. You should take these home for your parents, Clara said. She wasn't a fool. She guessed this was just an excuse to get her to accept the gifts, but she was an honest person and couldn't take so much from someone for no reason. It's fine. We have plenty at home. My parents can't eat it all anyway. Leo didn't give her another chance to refuse, carrying the bags into the house. Oh, Leo, listen to me. Clara tried to protest again, but Leo cut her off, pointing toward the kitchen. Ma'am, the food on the stove. Oh my. Reminded, Clara hurried back to the kitchen. After Julianne put down her bags, Leo pointed to 2 canisters of protein powder and some snacks. These are for you. You bought stuff for my mom, I get that, but why did you buy things for me too? Julianne asked, surprised. Leo looked her up and down. You're so thin, you look like you're malnourished. Eat some supplements and put some meat on your bones. Meat on my bones? Julianne thought. Am I that thin? I don't think so, right? Her gaze drifted down to her own chest, which was modestly curved, and then she understood what he meant. Julianne instinctively covered her chest, glaring at him. You're the one who's malnourished. Get lost. Seeing her strong reaction, Leo realized his words had been ambiguous. He just wanted her to have a little more baby fat on her face, to look cuter, but she seemed to have misunderstood and now thought he was a pervert. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You misunderstood. I wasn't implying that you're flat-chested. Julianne's brow furrowed as she glared at him. You just said it. Okay, the more he explained, the worse it got. Leo decided to shut his mouth. Less talking, fewer mistakes. Seeing her fierce expression, Leo thought of the old selfie of her in his phone's photo gallery. Yep, she was definitely cuter back then. Reading his expression, Julianne added, You have a really creepy look in your eyes. Leo felt like he'd just taken a critical hit. His heart ached. He'd bought her all these supplements, and she was calling him a pervert. At 11:30, with Julianne's help, Clara had prepared a feast of home-cooked dishes. Fried pork with peppers, fish with chopped chilies, braised pork belly with preserved vegetables, roasted chicken legs, stir-fried bok choy, and a corn and pork rib soup. Every single dish was a hearty, delicious classic. Ma'am, you've made so much food. This is too generous, Leo said. I feel a little embarrassed. He knew their financial situation. Just buying the groceries for this meal must have cost a lot. He was genuinely afraid that one meal at their house would bankrupt them. Don't say that, Clara said with a smile. Julianne told me how much you help her at school, and now you've brought all these gifts. We don't have much to offer you in return. If anything, I'm the one who should be embarrassed. Seeing them being so polite, Julianne interjected. All right, let's eat. We can talk while we eat. Yes, Clara nodded. Leo, hurry and try some of my cooking. See if you like it. It looks delicious already. I'm sure it's amazing. Leo smiled, picked up his chopsticks, and tried a piece of the fried pork. It was simple home cooking with that familiar, comforting flavor. There was nothing particularly special to praise about it. If he had to describe it, he would use one phrase: the taste of a mother's cooking. After 4 years of being poisoned by university cafeteria food and another 2.5 years of soulless takeout, tasting this familiar home-cooked meal again made him genuinely emotional. It was true. No matter how fancy the food, nothing beat a meal cooked at home. Here, Leo, have some more. Make yourself at home. Don't be nervous, Clara said, seeing him take small, hesitant bites. She thought he was just being shy, so she used a clean pair of chopsticks to pile more food in his bowl. That's enough. Thank you, ma'am, Leo said, holding up his bowl to receive the food. I can get myself. You should eat too. Clara picked up a roasted chicken leg and placed it in his bowl. Julianne told me you love chicken legs. I didn't have all the right spices for the marinade, so I don't know if it turned out well. It's fine, I'm not picky. I eat everything, Leo smiled, picking up the chicken leg and taking a bite. The marinade was a little weak, and the salt was a bit heavy. It was a taste that was so familiar. He'd only taken one bite, but he froze instantly. A memory he had tried so hard to bury surged uncontrollably to the surface. A hot current welled up in his eyes, and scalding tears streamed down his cheeks. By the time he realized what was happening, the tears were already dripping from his chin onto the table. Julianne stared at the weeping Leo, stunned. What's wrong? Clara gasped. Oh, Leo, why are you crying? It's nothing. I just need to use the restroom. Leo stood up and stumbled toward the bathroom. The moment he turned on the faucet, his tears began to flow like the water gushing from it, completely unstoppable.